Starbucks Triple Shot Energy.
Well, the powers that be have interrupted our Friday night college football viewing. We wait all off season to finally get to football games, and then we get the big announcement on Friday. So it kind of interrupts our Friday night football watching. But hey, that's okay. It's for a good reason, for a good cause, and should provide much discussion and debate tonight here at the Voice of College Football. Welcome in on a Friday night, the first Friday of college football, with Michigan State in action against Western Michigan. Or was that Western Michigan that played Oklahoma State last night? That was Central Michigan against, I always get them confused, especially Central and Western. Eastern Michigan, they wear the green. I remember them. And then we've got Indiana and Illinois going at it later tonight. Little Pac-12, Big 12 affair with TCU going out and playing Colorado. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Please leave those comments and questions there, and we will get to them. And, of course, we will open up the phone lines. But first, let's dive into this 12-team college football playoff format. But before that, I would love to go down the scoreboard and see what we've got after a ridiculously fun and frantic Thursday night to open this season, or week 0, I know, but to open week 1. Pitt, West Virginia backyard brawl was scintillating, fabulous, fantastic, all those good things, tremendous finish. Although I got to say, I don't like college football games. I don't like any sporting event to finish in controversy. I don't like the thought that the West Virginia wide receiver possibly could have caught the ball. I'm not saying that he did. I'm not saying that the play should not have been overturned. I'm just saying that it was that close. It was that close that I would have loved to have had a decisive outcome, that he caught the ball. We know it for sure. Then they got to run the play from the 1-yard line to try to tie the game and send it into overtime, or that he definitely trapped the ball. And I think most of us agree that the ground helped him catch the ball, and technically that's a trap. But I got to tell you, I didn't see the ball move. I saw him get his hands around the football and have control of the football, and didn't necessarily see it move. So I just hate how that game finished for such a great football game. A game that if I really want to stay up really late tonight, I'm going to rewatch because I had some things come up late in the West Virginia Pitt game, and then it interrupted the Penn State Purdue game for me and things I had to deal with and go through. So I didn't really lock in on the second half in particular of that game, and I would love to do so. But man, I spend the entire college football season thinking about games that I want to go back and watch, games that I don't see, because there's going to be how many teams playing in a weekend? 130. So we usually get 65 games. Let's say some teams are on bye weeks during the course of the regular season. So maybe 60 games. I get to see 6 or 7, maybe. And I would love to see more like 15 or 20. And so my DVR runs from Thursday night through Saturday overnight. And I always have about 15 or 16 games on there. And I go back and watch practically none of them. I just get too busy to watch these games. And I would love to be able to get back and watch these games. I got Indiana and Illinois on right now. I've got it on DVR. I've got the Michigan State Western Michigan game on DVR. Anyway, let's get to the scores. We've got Sparty up 21-3, third quarter on Western Michigan. Jaden Reed had a long touchdown reception from Peyton Thorne, although Michigan State could have went up by 25 points in this game, but Peyton Thorne threw a bad red zone interception. Eastern Michigan, that's the team with the green. Eastern Michigan with the green, 21-10 over Eastern Kentucky. Brent Pry's debut in Blacksburg not going well. We've seen this one before. I have said all off season that this is the worst Virginia Tech roster since early in the Frank Beamer era, since the late 80s, early 90s. Virginia Tech's losing at Old Dominion, playing on the road at Old Dominion, losing 10-7. They had a blocked kick in that game, a field goal try by the Hokies, and the Monarchs took it all the way for a touchdown. Charlotte and William and Mary are tied at 17, 11 minutes left in the third quarter. Duke up big on Temple, 24-0. Their starting quarterback is 15 of 17, and he is their fifth consecutive starting quarterback, new starting quarterback to start a season opener for the Dukies. And, of course, Mike Elko's coaching debut as a head coach at Duke. Kansas, 28-3 on Tennessee Tech. Illinois, Indiana. The Hoosiers just went up on a DJ Matthews touchdown, 10-7. And again, later tonight on ESPN, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, Colorado hosting TCU. Many people believe that the Buffs will have the worst Power 5 team this season. Now let's go to the topic of the night, and then we'll take your calls. So I'm diving into this for the first time, but I know the basics. That we will see a 12-team college football playoff starting in at least 2026, but it's recommended earlier than that. So the College Football Playoff Board of Managers unanimously voted Friday to expand the college football playoff to 12 teams. Some people would like to see 6. Some would like to see 8. Others all the way up to 16. We're getting the 12-team playoff. Of course, our precursor to this, our indication that it was going to land on 12 came last summer when all the recommendations were 12 teams. So we should have anticipated that it would land at 12, although there was some thought that the powers that be that 1 and 4 would pull it back to 8, and there would be a compromise between 12 and 4 and bring it to 8. But again, this was the recommendation last summer, and I got to think that it's very close to what the recommendation was last summer that was turned down by 2 or 3 of the conferences. I believe by the ACC in particular for sure, and possibly the Big Ten as well. In what was described as a historic day for college football, the board's 11 presidents and chancellors approved the original 12-team model. There you go. The original 12-team model that was brought to the commissioners last summer at this time, actually earlier than this point in the summer last year. So 13 or 14 months ago, this could have been agreed upon. It's the same exact original 12-team model. which was first made public last summer and includes the 6 highest ranked conference champions and 6 at-large teams, the board announced. The 6 highest ranked conference champions. So here we have the first flaw. The first flaw, other than it being 12 teams and that we've got bye weeks, is that this is going to be determined by the College Football Playoff Selection Committee, their rankings. Why? It is so stupid that we leave this up to people voting. It's so moronic. It is so incredibly stupid. Why? How idiotic. There are still quite a few issues that have to be resolved, some various obvious logistical issues. How about the moronic issue of people deciding who goes to the playoff? Why don't we address that? How stupid are these freaking people? It's unbelievable that we can't devise a system better than this. It's unbelievable. Why? But our hope is that we can get the commissioners to move on this quickly as it is possible to do so, said Mississippi State President Mark Keenum, chair of the College Football Playoffs Board of Managers. We have asked our commissioners, the management committee, to explore the possibility of us beginning the 12-team playoff format before the 26th season in either 24 or 25. Yes, well, that's a step in the right direction, because if you approve it, so we have yet to start, or just starting the 2022 season. The playoff, the 12-team playoff, has been approved by everybody that counts. So why do we need to wait till 26? If everybody's on board and wants this, it's been approved, started next season. The 10 FBS commissioners and Notre Dame athletic director Jack Swarbrick, don't get me started on that. The 10 FBS commissioners and Notre Dame athletic director Jack Swarbrick How about the Boise State athletic director? How about the Illinois athletic director? Give them a vote. Give them an equal share of the authority. We'll meet next Thursday in Irving, Texas, to discuss possibilities implementing the format as early as 24. The rankings of the teams will continue to be determined by the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. Which will remain largely unchanged. I'm not even saying that they do a bad job. They have a few times during the playoff era. They've done a bad job a few times. 21-10 Michigan State over Western Michigan. Still a game. The 4 highest ranked conference champions. Here we go. This is wrong too. This is screwed up too. The 4 highest ranked conference champions will be seeded 1 through 4. By whom? The College Football Playoff Selection Committee. The same stupid committee that tells us who should make the playoffs is going to tell us who get the byes. This is so stupid. The only good thing about this is we are now representing all the major conferences and another conference. So as it stands right now, you've got most likely the 5 Power 5 conference champions, and then you've got maybe an American Conference champion or a Mountain West Conference champion. So this is the big improvement. More teams, more representation of all the major conferences. That is the slam dunk positive here. But oh my word, drives me nuts. Teams seeded 5 through 12 will play each other in the first round on either the second or third weekend of December. The quarterfinals and semifinals will be played in bowl games on a rotating basis. I don't like that. And the championship game will be at a neutral site as under the current 4-team format. Hopefully there's going to be on-campus games. We don't know that right now. Quarterfinals and semifinals will be played in bowl games. You know what? Bowl games are not playoff games. Bowl games have been around since the beginning of the last century. Bowl games are not playoff games. Just because you name it a bowl game, it's not a bowl game anymore. It's a playoff game. The Rose Bowl in 2020 being played, not at the Rose Bowl, but being played in Jerry's World in Dallas, Texas as a college football playoff game. How is that in any such way the Rose Bowl? That's fine. We've been doing that for a long time. We've been doing it during the playoff era, and for a time we did it during the BCS era before the championship game, where we had a bowl game become the championship game. Bowl games to me are regional. Bowl games to me take on the flavor of the city, of the locale, of the area, that part of the country. They're destination spots for certain participants, certain conferences to be involved. We know what those have been in the past. So just to call it the Rose Bowl, it's a playoff game. It's not the Rose Bowl. This is an exciting day for the future of college football, SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey said in a statement. It is. It's fine. It's. I didn't expect them to get this right. I expected exactly what it was, although this was turned down 14 months ago. And Sankey's got to be happy because he wanted this last summer. As originally proposed, the 12-team playoff creates more access for teams and conferences across the country to compete in college football's championship event. There is work to be done to make this format a reality, but I am pleased we are all moving in the same direction with a common purpose. Of course, there's work to be done, but how much work is there to be done? The committee's going to select the teams. We've got a format. They're going to select the teams. So whatever their rankings are is going to select the teams. So how is that any more work? The work is going to be basically to ready the individual programs and their stadiums and campuses to be prepared to take on a playoff game a week or two after the regular season. Okay. I would love to be in those meetings to really understand what needs to be planned. Television and all the logistics can't be planned because you don't know who's made the playoffs. Now, you can plan, of course, sites. You're going to have to work with those stadium sites and whomever's in charge of those stadium sites to work out if there are any conflicts in scheduling. And otherwise, you're just going to announce that we've got playoff games at these particular sites, semifinal and championship games. 12-team model was originally put together by Sankey, Swarbrick, Mountain West Commissioner Craig Thompson, and former Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlesby. It was floated publicly in June of 21, but got bogged down by conference politics. In February, the College Football Playoff Committee announced it would not be expanding in the current contract, which expires after the 25 season. So again, we couldn't believe that. And that's fine. That's good that didn't work out. But again, this is another entity, just like we saw during the COVID, that they come out with these absolutes, these statements that they say are absolutes, and they don't turn out to be absolutes. They shouldn't state them as absolutes. We will not have an expanded college football playoff before the 2025 season. That's an absolute statement that was made. Well, it was wrong. So don't say it. Just like Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren saying, we are not playing the 2020 college football season. And then 2 weeks later, he's saying, we're playing the college football season. The major buildup had been specific objections from the ACC, the Big Ten, and the Pac-12, but after the thunderbolt of a realignment this summer with USC and UCLA committing to the Big Ten and that conference signing a historic television deal, the issues from those leagues began to fade into the background. Pac-12 is strongly in favor of college football playoff expansion and welcomes the decision of the playoff board. Pac-12 said in a statement Friday, of course they are. They don't make the playoff. Expansion will provide increased access and excitement and is the right thing for our student athletes and fans. We look forward to working with our fellow conferences to finalize the important elements of an expanded college football playoff in order to launch as soon as practicable. Practicable? I've never used that word. Practicable. And then, of course, we can go through this 2022 season and figure out at the end of the year, what would this have looked like in a 12-team playoff format, the one that's been approved. When asked specifically about those three conferences now voting in favor of expansion, Keenum said it was a matter of those leagues and everyone else doing their due diligence and talking with each member. They spent the time, they put the effort in to get to this point, Keenum said. So I think it's just a cumulative effort by all these individuals to get to the point where they feel not just these particular conferences, but all of the conferences that are on board went through the same process. Anything else we need to hit on? Might take weeks or months to work out the possibility of playing a 12-team playoff in 24-25. In mid-August, the playoff committee announced Atlanta will host the national championship game in 25, followed by Miami in 26. While college football playoff officials have laid out the obstacles to such a sudden move, venues, venues for the semifinal games. So with the 12 teams, obviously, the first round's going to be, or the wild card round is going to be on campus probably. So then you've got 8 teams. You're down to 8. And then so you just have to figure out where that round of games are going to be, because you've already got the sites set up for the championship games, and I would think the semifinals those years, because they thought they were going to have a 4-team playoff. So you just have to work out 4 venues for the quarterfinal games. Hotels and television contracts. Money can loom as a powerful motivator for change. Yes, we're not naive to understand there's added value by expanding the playoff, but I can tell you from being part of these discussions from the very beginning, what motivated the presidents and me as well was that we needed to have an opportunity for more participation of teams in our nation's national championship tournament. Having only 4 teams, we felt like that's not fair to our student athletes from a participation standpoint. That's not true. That's not entirely true. That could be a motivation. I believe that there are people involved that want to expand the playoff because they want to provide more opportunities for the student athletes, and as fans, they want a fair, more equitable invitational. So we have an expanded invitational, folks, is what we've got. Not an expanded playoff. Let me correct my banner here. I really screwed up here. Really screwed up. And I apologize for that. There we go. We've got a 12-team college football invitational by 2026. All right, time to hear from all of you. Of course, they weren't going to get it right, but we already knew that. So I do like the fact that we're going to get all the major conferences represented, plus another conference champion. So the conference champions are going to be repped, and that's definitely important. Important to me, should be important to everyone, because no more. So really, this is how it stands. The power shift, and you can join the show by grabbing the link in the chat. The power shift has come that the College Football Playoff Selection Committee's current power is obviously selecting the 4. That's their entire power that they hold over the entirety of college football. Their power is shifting to selecting the buys. That's where the power is now, that they get to select the teams that get the buys. And I guarantee you, I am going to be sitting here every year, save 1 out of every 5 to 10 years, and I will have a huge issue with them distributing buys, because that's not going to be easy to do. We could go through every year of the college football playoff and before that, and it's impossible. It's impossible to fairly distribute buys. Impossible. So college football is screwed up again, but we at least knew this was coming. Now we've got an expanded playoff. We've got more football, so that's always a good thing. And we've got a fairer model to allow conference champions to participate, regardless of whether everyone thinks the Pac-12 champion sucks. They shouldn't be allowed. You know what? Shut up. They're in. They won their championship. We got Tim on the line. Tim, what's going on?
Hey, Mark, how you doing? Doing good.
This irritates me.
We've been talking about this for a long time. We knew this mess was going to happen. I think you and I have been on the same page when it comes to this whole 12-team playoff bowl stuff. Really quickly, did you already do it? Because I wrote down what it would have been. Now, here's my question for you. Is it going to be the top 6? Do you have confirmation on that? The top 6 conference champions are auto bids. Is that correct or incorrect?
Yes, they're automatically in.
Now, my question:
ranked champions.
I don't like I don't like the second and third place teams in the conference getting in, but that's going to happen probably for the Big Ten and for the SEC almost every year. Now is going to be that the top 6 champions, do they get seeds 1 through 6, or that's not going to be the case? Because even then, that would at least give some credence to winning your conference. That would give some validity that you win your conference, you're guaranteed a top 6 seed.
So it does not say that they are given the top 6 seeds. Now, I don't know that this article is completely exhaustive, and they did say that there's some details to be worked out. And I would think that so the 2 things that you bring up are key. Do the 6 conference champions fill up the top 6 slots? And number 2, what was the other point that you just brought up? It was a good one.
I still got COVID brain going.
It was, exactly that, because you could have, for example, last season, Georgia and Alabama being 2 of the top 6 seeds or 4 seeds.
Yeah. So what you would have, I kind of worked out, if under the scenario I said, where the top 6 ranked conference champions, it would have been, so here's the seeding. It would have been Bama, Michigan, Cincinnati, Baylor, Utah, and Pitt, in that order.
And that's based on
their final playoff ranking.
Yes, before the bowl games last year.
Correct.
Sure. Okay.
And then
you know what it figures, Tim, and nobody cares about this, but I worked through all the playoff years going back to 2014. When this was first proposed last year, I had a notepad that had and I just threw those away like 3 days ago. So I'll have to go back and do it again. Okay, so those are the top 6.
Yeah, because we're talking about the seeding. See, that's the part of this that's just like just like college football lately. You take 1 step forward and then 2 steps back. It's like we're still playing this game where we're going to select who the best teams are instead of playing it on the field, But I'll listen. There's not much you can do, so let's give them that point. But here's what my concern is: do they slot Georgia in at like 3 or 4, right? And then that means someone that won their conference is now in one of the play-in games. Let's put it that way. Do you see what I mean? That's where
Oh,
I'm going to start to
absolutely.
say,
Yeah.
and again, in this year, it's hard to use this year as an example because this is a year where a Georgia team came in as a lower seed, didn't win their conference, but they were arguably one of the top 2 teams in the country. No one's going to argue that. The question, though, is that in years where it's not as clear cut as that, are we to give preferential treatment to the bigger conferences like the SEC and the Big Ten, stacking that top 4 with like 2 of each, right? And then you got conference champions out there fighting for a chance to get in. And I'm hoping that they do have it to where, so we're going to have the at-large, fine, Sankey, you get your goal. You're going to get 3 guys in, every year. Don't worry. But you don't get 3 in the top 4 or 3 in the top 5 or 3 in the top 6. You're going to get your conference champion, and then you'll get some at-large teams. Those at-large teams will be filling 6 through 12. Most likely, like in this scenario, you have, so 7 would be Georgia, 8 would be Notre Dame, 9 would be Ohio State, 10 would be Ole Miss, 11 would have been Oklahoma State, and then Michigan State. That would have rounded out the other 6 for the at-large bids.
Okay, wait a minute. I'm seeing a different lineup than what you just read off. Going into the playoff last year, going into the bowl season after Championship Sunday, Alabama 1, Michigan 2, Georgia 3, Cincinnati 4, Notre Dame 5, Ohio State 6, Baylor 7, Ole Miss 8, Oklahoma State 9, Michigan State 10, Utah 11, Pittsburgh 12.
Correct. But what I'm doing is I'm seeding the conference champions 1 through 6.
Sure. Okay. So I got that.
So that bumps Ohio State down. That bumps Georgia down because they didn't win their conference.
Sure. Did you get 6 conference champions in?
Yeah, six champions in order were Bama, Michigan, Cincinnati, Baylor, Utah, and Pitt. In that order.
Cincinnati's this. Okay, gotcha.
So Cincinnati, the AAC's up at what, number 3? So in that year, and then I seeded them out the rest, just as at large on the ranking.
So what works out last season typically wouldn't have worked out, and this is it, is that usually the American Conference champion or the Mountain West champion, who would be that 6th conference champion, they're almost never in the top 12 in the country.
Yeah.
So usually what's going to happen is 11 of the top 12 ranked teams in the country are going to make it, and then they're going to have to pluck number 18 or number 23, and that's fine. They won their championship. But it's not going to be their top 12 teams in the country typically.
Well, and I'm wondering what we're doing, because like now what we're seeing in the Big 12, they're yanking all the best G5 schools and bringing them into the Big 12. So that now you're looking at that, your Cincinnati, the teams that would normally
BYU, UCF.
Yeah, because BYU is 13.
UCF and Cincinnati would have made most of these playoff spots over the course of the 8-year playoff. Yeah, it would have been Cincinnati the last 2 years. It would have been UCF. This is good news for Boise State, for San Diego State, Air Force, those teams.
Yeah. So again, this is what we have. So we always knew it'd be a bunch of teams, because this is just TV money. TV money's driving what we're doing for teams, and as far as realignment's concerned, and it's going to drive apparently now the playoffs, because the problem I had, so there's some pluses and minuses I saw really quickly. So the good part is again, this does open that door for the Cinderella. I mean, how often is that even going to happen? Probably very rare. They'll get past even the first round, but it is the possibility. The thing we've always talked about, the people that have always said, hey, look, we want it to be a playoff. Well, we're one step closer to a playoff, meaning it's not just an invitational. If you meet a certain criteria, you're in. Unfortunately for those G5, it's only one of you will be in, the highest ranked one, but at least there is a guaranteed spot for you.
Yes. There are 6 guaranteed spots. I love that. Right now, there's no guaranteed spot.
Yeah,
There's
so
no
that's
such
a
thing
bonus.
as there's no criteria right now. 0. The committee gets to do whatever they want. They can select whomever they want. Yes, there's 0 criteria. I love to ask people that. I say, what is the one thing that any team can do to guarantee that they're going to make the playoff? And they always say, go undefeated. And I say, no. What if all 5 conference champions went undefeated? They'd have to leave somebody out.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
And so, I mean,
that's a good thing.
Mark, I'm trying to find my silver linings for this damn thing. Okay, so that's another good thing. But and also another one I'm hoping that could happen is going to be we're going to start seeing some better out of conference games. I mean, I see Jeff Grimman here. I think, did Alabama know that we're going when they started doing their out of conference scheduling for the next 6 to 7 years? Did they kind of know that this is the direction we were going? Because they've really changed. They've changed the way that they're scheduling their out of conference. Yeah, I see you, Jeff. So it might, but it's going to give us better games.
What do you say, Jeff?
Yeah, Nick Saban knew ahead of time. That's why we decided to start playing tough guys.
I'm pretty sure Nick was the one that signed off on this, wasn't it? Usually it's how it goes, right?
Now, from my understanding, Tim, if the playoffs would have happened last year, if this 12 team, Alabama, Michigan, Cincinnati, and Baylor would have got the bye. The first round would have been number 12 Pitt playing number 5 Georgia, number 11 Utah against number 6 Notre Dame, number 10 Michigan State against number 7 Ohio State, and then number 9 Oklahoma State at Ole Miss.
Wait, I'm confused, Jeff. How did the seeding work? How did Georgia drop to 5?
What happened is the top 4 conference champions get the byes. So they're seeded 1 through 4. And then after that, it's based on ranking. Where you are in the ranking is what I was.
Well, yeah, that was the original. I was just making sure when Tim proposed that, I said, yeah, I don't know for sure, but that's what was proposed last summer. Yeah, that was the original proposal. I can get behind that.
And I think they said they agreed to the original model. So if that's the original model, that's probably what the gentleman's agreement going forward is going to be. Wait, I mean, I can get behind that as well, because I don't think that we're going to have a Power 5 anymore. I think the way things are going, it's really going to maybe a Power 2.5, maybe 3. Yeah, I honestly don't think that. I think they're going to further expansion is right around the corner, and I think it's when you start taking some more of those teams from the other top Power 5s, there's not going to be enough teams to fill the slots to make. Do we have 5 Power 5 conferences? You guys think 10 years from now we'll have 5 Power 5 conferences?
No, you're going to have 2, and then you're going to have 3.
Think about that. If the SEC and the Big Ten start scarfing up the other top programs, and this model guarantees that the top 6 conference champions are going to make it, and we size down to that kind of thing, we're going to have a lot lesser teams make the playoff. We got to fill up 6 slots with champions.
But I almost like that.
I kind of like it too. Let's get the marriage there.
It'll make it to where you really do need to win your conference. You know what I mean? I like the fact that 4 makes me smile a lot, Jeff. The fact that we now know that winning your conference matters. That's big. I mean, in a way, it's not going to be that much of a deal, because if you're for instance, let's say you made Georgia play any one of those other teams, it's not like it's going to be a tune-up, but still playing one more game, there is a huge disadvantage to it. So I do like the fact, though, that winning your conference is going to be a huge benefit. So I do like that.
The issue I have is that this committee gets to decide the 4 teams that get the byes.
True. But now, Mark, you know this. How many times does that 5th team have a real gripe?
A lot.
But here's the question, Mark.
Between 4 and 5?
Pardon me? If you have to pick between 6 conference championships, would that happen a lot then?
I think it's happened quite a bit. Between 4 and 5?
Well, yeah, but then we wasn't taking in consideration if they won the conference championship. You know what I mean?
Look at 2018. The 4 and 5 spot in the playoff was between Oklahoma and Ohio State. Big 12 champion, Big 10 champion, both went 13-1.
But who were the teams that made it in that year?
Oklahoma made it.
But, who was the other 3 teams?
That was Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame. So yeah,
Well, so
what happens to
you
Notre
would
Dame?
take Notre Dame out though, because they wouldn't get a chance at a bye. So that would put the
Ohio
other
State
two
and
in.
Oklahoma. True. Notre Dame can go undefeated, and if they want to continue to be without a conference, the best they can do is a 7 seed. No, the best they can do is a 5 seed, I guess.
Right. So does that pressure Notre Dame enough to make them come into a conference?
Well, didn't Schwarber already say that when they're talking about having now that's when they're talking about having the first round at home, right? They said that's fine. We won't have that. When that, I remember that being something in the initial argument was they said, well, if we don't play a conference championship game or whatever, that you are going to forfeit the ability to have a first round home game. Remember? Do you guys remember talking about that?
So he's willing to forfeit a bye, and he's willing to forfeit a home game. Notre Dame's never going to go anywhere.
No, they
in
would
this
still
playoff.
get a chance at a home game, though, because if they're the 5th seed, they would play at home the first round.
Sure, they would based on the seeding, but if what Tim is saying, if they're forfeiting that by not joining a conference.
This is the best news in the world for Will and for all the Notre Dame fans out there, because it just means that Notre Dame needs to finish in the top 12 every year, and they're in the playoffs.
Well, sure, everybody else the same. The only teams that wouldn't make it would be a top 12 team that's at the bottom of the top 12.
With you,
if the committee's got to go outside that 12 to select a conference champion or 2.
But I'm saying now it removes the whole conference thing. What I'm trying to say is that now does the whole, I don't think there's that pressure that we're saying. You're talking about the first round bye. That means they're finishing in the top 4. Yeah. Maybe after a couple of times them getting locked out because they're not in a conference, that might be enough to nudge them if they're finishing in the top 4.
Guys, do you realize, because I went through all this, because this is, like Jeff is saying, this is the model that was proposed and looked like it was going to come through last summer. So I worked through all the seasons and what this was going to look like, except for the Luke Fickell year. You know, the last time under this system that Ohio State would have missed the playoffs?
Wow.
04. They would have made it 17 years in a row, except for one season. They would make this playoff.
That's crazy.
And Bama, obviously, ever since Saban, but they were hit or miss before that, of course. But yeah.
But
and
this does give Jimbo Fisher a chance.
That's right. This 9-3 Texas A&M teams should be able to squeeze in, maybe. I don't know. I don't like this committee ranking teams, and that's how we. And especially this top 4, I do think that there's going to be a decision that's going to be difficult between 4 and 5, and that's huge.
Yeah, no, I agree.
In this is huge.
It's kind of like that bubble team though in the tournament. It's like
that's a whole different deal though, Tim. If you can't make the NCAA men's basketball tournament, then you really, if you're not in the top 64, then you know what, you don't have any gripes. You know what I mean?
No, but I mean, I'm thinking traditionally
in the country.
Mark, I'm talking traditionally in football, though. What I'm saying is like 64 teams in football would be a ridiculous number. My point is if you're not considered one of the top 4 teams in the country, right? Traditionally,
yes.
How much of a gripe do you have that you're not playing in the national championships? All I'm saying. Traditionally, you're right. There are some occasions where the 4 and 5, the 4-5 is bubble, whatever. But in general, really, the gripe usually is 1, 2, and 3. Once you're getting out to 5. If you have a gripe that you're number 5 and not number 4, I mean, this
is going to create the gripe. This is going to create our resume is the same as the team number 4. Why do we have to play? We won a conference championship. We only lost 1 game. This is going to come up quite a bit.
And we're getting this because of the bye. I mean, let's just face it. By being greedy and going to 8 instead of keeping it at 6. So they could have done the same exact thing, right? And just had 2 at large. Exact same thing. 2 at large, and now we're talking, okay, fine. So if you're saying you're the number 9 team in the country, that you're upset you were left out of the playoff, that even underlines my point even more. This is all about money. They shouldn't have gone past 8. Nobody gets a bye, like we've been talking about for the past year and a half now, right? And you have 8 teams. You have all 6. You have the top 6, and then 2 at large.
At large.
That would have handled everything, but that's not enough games, Mark. We need more money. We need more
but
money.
I would have rather seen them go to 16 teams, have the 8 conference champions, and then 8 at large, and then nobody gets a bye, so it's not, because the bye is really big.
Sure it is.
You're not playing that game, so you're not taking any chance of injury. You get to scout the teams you're going to be playing. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
to Jeff's point, and we'll just fill in 2 teams just so people can relate to it. Let's say Oregon's the Pac-12 champion. They're the 4. Oklahoma's the Big 12 champion. They're the 5. Okay, Oklahoma has to go play a good team. They got to play the 12th best team in the country. They got to play Penn State. Well, they can't focus on looking ahead and scouting Oregon. They got to focus on Penn State for the next couple weeks. And guys could get hurt. Even the guys that don't get hurt could get banged up, just be beaten up by a physical game against Penn State. Meanwhile, Oregon sits back and they get the best scouting film possible. They get to watch both of them play.
Yeah.
Well, and now that we're going to add 2 more games, right? Does that mean that we have the playoffs starting the week after the championships? The conference championships?
Calendar. I don't think we have to crunch it in quite like that. I don't think that it's that. No, I think that even the teams that have to play in the first round will get a week off.
Okay, so you think it'll be like the 3rd Saturday in December it would start, something like that?
Look at a calendar. So if you look at this December, you've got the conference championship games are going to be on Saturday the 3rd. So take a week off. The week of the 17th, that weekend, you would have the first round games that would size it down to now 8. And the week of 8 would play on Christmas Eve. And then the final 4 would be just as it is right now on New Year's Eve. And then the championship game.
So that would work.
So Army, Navy, keep your spot in between the conference championship games and the playoffs.
But that's a huge advantage for the team with the bye. That gives them now not just 1 week, they get 2 weeks off. Plus that whole first week they can, study up on both teams and have the game plan.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, huge.
And you don't worry about an injury, and that's the big thing. You don't, or a stupid targeting call in the 4th quarter, of a game that they lose the first half of the next game.
Okay, but we're looking for equity here, right? So here's the thing. You do know that does suck for the number 5 team. So you win your conference and you're the number 5 team. And you do everything right, but this committee says that your conference and your team is as good as this conference and their team, and then therefore you're going to play an extra round. But now we're talking about one team. I mean, it's just going to be Mr. Unlucky. You know what I mean? If you get that the number 5 spot is where you're just going to have to bite the bullet because nothing is going to be clean.
And sure, some years it's going to be okay. Utah won the Pac-12 and they're 10-3. Fine, and the other 4 are seem to be near elite, so and it's going to be like that some years, but there is going to be some resumes that are going to be difficult to distinguish.
But how are you going to feel being Notre Dame going 12-0 and the 4th best conference champion has 2 or 3 losses and they're getting the bye?
Jeff, you'll feel exactly how you should feel. You should have joined a conference.
Right.
I mean, let's be real. You have the option to join. There's more than one conference that wants you. If you sign up for that, I don't want to hear any complaining Notre Dame fan that your team is not getting a bye, because that's just not going to be an argument I want to hear.
You guys ready to bring in a 4th? We can hear what Mr. Notre Dame himself has to say.
Oh, here we go, Will.
I'm happy about this, honestly. I'm not happy because I hate the idea of buys.
Your ceiling is the 5 seed.
That's okay. We can win the play-in game, and then take on whoever's the 4. I'm ready. I'm ready for this.
You say that now, but the first time you're a 5th seed and your quarterback gets taken out in that game, you're not going to be so happy.
I mean, I would be sad, but I wouldn't.
Ready for the playoff? Is that what I just heard? A Notre Dame fan is saying our team's ready for the playoff.
Well, ready. They'll be ready. Okay, not yet. I can't say it yet.
What's your composite playoff score?
It's not good, but
30
that was
to
a
3 and
different coaching staff.
31-14. Okay.
Different
But to
coaching
be fair,
staff. Different
Freeman's
coaching
bringing
staff.
in different quality athletes now, so I think those scores will be tightened up a little bit.
New athletes.
Okay.
Even up the playing field a bit.
All right.
Just think bigger lines and faster defensive ends. That's all you need.
I mean, I feel like our defensive ends are good right now, but
Or how about in Notre Dame? Notre Dame needs to start getting 5-star quarterbacks again. Is what they need to do. Some reason.
CJ Carr.
Yeah, no, I mean now you're doing it, but I'm saying for a while there's this guy that was coaching your team, and for some reason, inexplicable to me, he couldn't get 5-star quarterbacks to come to Notre Dame, which in itself should have been an indictment, in my opinion.
Are you picking on my guy Brian Kelly? Come on.
I forgot him already. Yeah, that's what his name was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I felt like we were a quarterback away from actually competing. I mean, Ian Buck tried his best. He was a gamer, but he just wasn't that talented.
Michigan
to win a
State's
playoff game.
By the way, here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I'm happy for the group of 5, though. Like, you don't have to have your own playoff. You can get a spot for sure. Get a home game. Bring the whole town of wherever the group of 5 school is to the game. Do you think there's any chance? Do you think this actually also opens the opportunity for another group of 5 team to get in, or do you think it'll only be that one group of 5 team? Only one.
It would have to be a really down year for a Power 5 conference not to get in.
Okay.
We've seen our fair share of second one in, yeah. Very rarely you see 2 G5s in the top 12.
Yeah.
Not the final top 12. No.
Mm-hmm.
You would almost have to have a big upset. Kind of like, and it's going to be harder to do now since conferences are doing away with divisions where you don't have to play the best team from the other. It's the top 2 in the team.
Mm-hmm.
But like when Clemson played the number 15 team, in the ACC championship, if they would have lost, that would have hurt the ACC champion, so maybe then you might have had the argument with like another group of 5 sneaking in.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad that Jack Swarbrick, I know other schools hate this, but it makes me feel safer that Jack Swarbrick's involved in all of this. I really like when I read.
Yes, it is comforting to all of us, Will.
That preferential seat for Notre Dame, I'm sure everybody's happy about it.
I hate reading that. The such and such number of conference commissioners got together with Jack Swarbrick. I'm like, what? You know what? Let's elevate the Kansas State and Illinois athletic directors and let them have as much say as Jack Swarbrick. And it's not anything against him. He just happens to be the AD at Notre Dame. But that's I'm becoming even more annoyed by Notre Dame's refusal to join a conference, although, again, it's not a knock against Notre Dame. It's a knock against everybody allowing it.
Why wasn't BYU's athletic director a part of it?
Because that's easy.
They're dealing with other things right now.
Well, no, because they don't have a direct hotline to NBC and Fox and ESPN like Swarbrick does. So that's, all this stuff is being, this is, I like how we're giving all the conference commissioners all of the kudos for all this, but in reality, this is all the major networks behind the scenes pulling the strings on all this stuff. This is what they want to see, right? With realignment and the playoffs. So it was inevitable. It happens in all sports. And now TV is going to run college football. And now it's just less transparent.
Now all the TVs are going to be fighting for the rights to these games. Do you think that they're going to spread it out at all, or do you think that will be? only.
Oh,
on
I think
ESPN.
it'll be spread out. I think you're going to see Fox bidding on it. I think NBC, CBS. I think they're all going to want a piece of this.
It's going to rotate, right? Don't you think?
Yes.
Yeah, they'll have a rotation set up.
Yeah, I think once the Big Ten split from ESPN, Kevin Warren, he pretty much laid it out in Big Ten Media Days that there is going to be a sharing of, and that's probably part of this agreement that's not being stated here, and the reason why it was accepted now and not accepted a year ago.
Yeah. Well, I just hope, again, my big worry is one. I think we're just one more big chunk away from losing what we have as college football. This is, the bowl games. Now, talk about the bowl games were relevant before when there was only 4 people in the playoffs. Now that you have all these games, if you're not part of this top 12, you're really be viewed as just a complete exhibition game. So, I mean,
well, there are going to be bowl games. Some of them are going to be bowl games. But again, what's a bowl game when it's a playoff game? I just don't even consider them bowl games anymore. It's a playoff game.
Yeah,
I said we just take the next 24 teams and do an NIT.
Yeah.
they
We'll
could
do the playoffs and then an NIT playoff. And
David, we'll get you in here to add to the fun here. David Greenshield, Ohio State fan. David, how you doing?
Hi, how you guys doing? I think you guys are continuing to watch college football take itself down the toilet. I just have to add to that. I did find that, I don't know if you guys saw Desmond Howard and Pollock kick it around earlier, saying that does this produce any different of a result, or do we get that many upsets, or do we still get to the same place at the end of the day? Howard was a little bit more optimistic than Pollock. He seems to think that, there will be some upsets and this could, switch things up. But Pollock's like, no, we're getting to the same place.
Well, David, of course, Desmond Howard was. Number one,
yeah,
always got some lunacy. Number 2, look at his playoff predictions.
Thank you.
He's the guy that thinks that this is going to mix things up. This could mix up some results in the first round that would be like, oh wow, Ohio State, a 6 seed, lost to Ole Miss, but in terms of when it really matters at the end, I don't think so.
I agree, because we've talked about the gap in the talent between, let's say, the top 3 or 4 teams, particularly maybe the top 3 teams, and then everybody else as it kind of moves down. As far as, let's say, the gap between the top 3 teams and number 9 and 10 is greater than it was 20, 25 years ago, obviously. Yeah. And with college football being less regionalized, a lot of the direction that this sport is taken right now is not the college football I grew up with. Now, I realize that the powers that be at the networks could care less because they're about the dollars, and that's what keeps them going, and that's why we're here. But, at the same, from the same standpoint, again, it's not going to improve any situation. Are they just hoping to get that much better ratings in different markets? Is that obviously the goal, is to get the West Coast more involved in college football, to get other parts of the country? Because right now, where's the major interest in this sport? It's in the Midwest and in the South. It's showing by what the 2 conferences are trying to do by making the power plays.
No, I think that's exactly it. Because again, when you talk about the top 6 conferences, you're going to be looking possibly out west, like the Mountain West might be involved in that slot as well. And even if you're not, at the end of the game, you're in the conversation throughout the year. You're on ESPN talking about who's going to get that number 6 seat. So it generates a lot of content. And so there's certain things it's to take it away from college football, but it's bringing a lot of stuff back. Mark, I started thinking about what we said about the 4-5, right? Yeah. You got to have some good controversy in college football, because we've had controversy the entire time. So you're going to get that drama from that 4 or 5 spot. You're going to get the drama for who's going to be that 6th highest ranked conference team. I think in a lot of ways it's going to be helpful. But what you just said just there is it's going to open it up to the wider market. More people be interested in knowing that their team has a chance to make the playoffs. And then, in everything, everyone starts out right now. Hope is everything in college football, right? Raise your hand if you don't think your team's going to make the playoffs this year. I mean, if you have to do it in public, you're heck yeah, I'm doing it. We're making it, right? So that optimism will drive college football. It always has.
But does this also help the college game for like a Michigan, let's say, or because now you lose to Ohio State, you can still make it in. So does it help recruiting? Hey, you don't have to go to Ohio State to get to the playoffs. You don't have to go to Bama to get to the playoffs. Does that take a kid who, hey, I could go to Michigan and still play and still have a good shot at making the playoffs versus now with only 4 teams, you better go to Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, something like that. Does that kind of even the playing field a little bit?
I mean, it possibly could, but I mean, if you're part of that non-bye teams and those teams are just getting kicked around, I still think that a lot of these kids want to see the team that holds up the crystal at the end of the day too. That's also a big part of it. I mean, obviously, I think that's why you guys have been recruiting at your level, not just because you've been making the playoff, but because you guys have been holding the crystal a lot of the time. I would add that, I mean, the bottom line, and me and Mark have talked about this, the 8-team playoff would have solved a lot of these problems. I mean, because, let's be honest, you could have still gotten the conference champions in. You still could have gotten a non-Power 5 team in. You still could have solved a lot of issues. I mean, did they address that? Why 12 is better than 8? Or was that question? Okay, everything goes back to the dollar, but okay.
No,
I guess
here's the main reason. And
go ahead.
It goes against me, but the SEC is not going to go to 8 teams and not be able to get a chance at a 3rd team, seeing that we're getting 2 in and 4. You see what I'm saying? I'm not saying it's right. But I'm saying that's probably the SEC's argument. Hey, we're getting 2 in at 4. Why would I want to expand it to 8 if I don't get more people?
Right. I mean, well, you've had the playoff, 7 years, and the SEC's gotten 2 teams in, twice?
No.
8 years, and they have twice.
Yeah, twice.
Okay.
17 and 21.
Right. Yeah. So, okay, I mean, I get your point, but yeah, I mean,
maybe that wasn't brought up, but that's the only thing I could see about the SEC would, want the chance of getting more than 1 in.
To address the comment on the screen, it's just me, Tim79. So I think I'm going to shoot it down on one hand, but I'm going to confirm the concern on the other hand, because for any team, if this gets expanded to 12, so at this point, a team can win their conference and not make the playoff. A team could be number 5 in the country, not make the playoff. And I think that's a legitimate gripe to say, hey, we won our conference championship. But you're taking away the gripe that your conference is represented. If you play in a Power 5 conference, win your conference championship, and you'll be in the playoff. So you take away that gripe of we're number 13, but we're as good as number 12. We should be in. But to their point, that's going to be the other controversy. The number 12 team, let's say it is the top 12 teams in the country. That number 12 team is probably going to be 9-3 / 10-2, and the number 13 team in the country, the number 14 team, 15 team, they're going to have similar resumes, and have a gripe. But it comes down to the committee has the power to select whomever they want.
I want to address the Notre Dame factor too. Have they ever addressed, because I know the Big Ten, coming to the Big Ten, there's been some animosity between Notre Dame and the Big Ten over the years, but the Big Ten TV dollars would be pretty good. I mean, would that be as much as the NBC TV dollars, and that's the deal breaker? I mean, if everything comes back to the dollar here, I don't know if Swarbrick has addressed that, but because the Big Ten TV contract is no joke. I mean, they'll give a few bucks.
Well, I mean, I feel like Swarbrick really hasn't been worried about monetary gain. I mean, they get so much from the donors. I just don't think that money is like the main factor. They just want to keep the tradition of Notre Dame being independent going. I think it's more about the tradition than anything else.
You mean the tradition of picking your schedule is what you really mean there. I got you.
And there's a lot of true hatred between Notre Dame and Michigan.
Yeah, I know. And the Big Ten, for that matter. They've
Notre Dame over, and you're well aware of Michigan's attitude. I mean, look what they did to Nebraska.
Yeah.
They helped get Nebraska out of the AAU.
Right. Well, I'm thinking. Right. Well, Notre Dame has grief with the Big Ten going back years. I mean, a long time.
The 50s.
Yeah, back to Rockney.
Yeah.
Well, mainly it stemmed out of, I think it was more Chrysler that started the real the embargo on keeping them out, but also stopping playing at all, because they took a little break, and then Chrysler got really mad, accused Notre Dame of cheating, and then didn't play him again until 40 some odd years later, 30 some odd years later. So I mean, that's where the real beef hit the fan, and there's always been a lot of racial bigotry in that situation between the Protestants and the Catholics in the Midwest. So that definitely was a big factor that's going to span generations.
Well, yeah, I'm just thinking of a conference that has Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame, and USC. Not a bad conference.
Well, and Penn State. I mean,
yeah, and Penn State,
I mean,
yeah.
That.
I mean, that would help.
Let's expand the conversation. Okay. We got Hunter on the line. We'll bring in Tony as well. Guys, how you doing?
Good.
Hey, guys.
Hey, guys.
Hey, I just want to say, I don't think it's all bad.
Okay.
Sorry, somebody's got echo.
Better.
Hunter, that was you. You could hear the TV in the background. Yeah, I don't think it's all bad, guys, because like if you think about it, what we're doing is we're getting more people into the playoffs. If we could throw everything we have right now away and build a whole new system, like I think that would be awesome. But we're not going to do that. So given where we are now, I think this makes a lot of things better. More teams get to be a part of it. All of the conferences get to be a part of it. We know there's at least a G5 team involved. I mean, you guys know, and you all like flip out. You guys will read me in the comments for saying this. I love the idea of like 16 or 32 team models that had all 10 conference champions in it, so that everyone was a part of it. We're not there yet. We may never be there, but I love the idea of having more teams. We know they're going to be a part of it. The Pac-12 champion won't be excluded. The Big 12 champion, even if they stink, won't be excluded from it. Nobody's going to be excluded from it of the major conferences, and we know somebody from the G5 is going to get in. And I think that's awesome.
Well, I think you would have that with 8. You know, I mean, I think you could say 6 conference winners. I think you could say, a non-power 5. And then I'll tell you what, to the SEC's point, there's a very good chance the SEC would be the other at-large team. So there's your 8 teams. I mean, that's not a bad situation. And you avoid what Mark hates
not bad,
and I hate.
More is better. I never say no to more football. And I think that more is better. I think more provides more. But also, we know the absolute conniption that the FCC would throw if they thought that they had number 2, and God forbid someone suggested that their number 2 is number 3. So I think once we start to get to 12, remember, just like the NCAA basketball tournament, every little bit you add on reduces controversy. Especially because if you guys think about here's the other situation that will happen is that when there are upsets in the conference championship, the number 1 team loses in their championship game. That means that like one other at-large team is not going to go. And if it's the undefeated number 1 team and they lose to, undefeated number 1 Miami loses to 7-4 Pitt. The more of those you have, you build yourself more padding to allow then Cincinnati to not be excluded if that happens, which, it could happen. So again, the endless scenarios of what if, but I think that we've got more football, which is good. We've got more participation, which is good. And we're more on the right track.
But the thing that I think what was missing here in this conversation is more football is always good. I agree with you there. But how do we do this in a way to where the conferences are generating enough revenue to where they're satisfied? And I just think that that is a component of all this that has to be discussed, because that's why some of the things that are happening now that we don't like in college football is happening is because of money. So we have to factor that into the conversation as well.
Well, and I'll tell you, and I think you're right on that. I'll tell you that the thing that I love, the models that I like that we're not talking about at all, are the ideas of like involving the conference championships into the playoffs. And you know what? If God forbid that meant that like 2 of the top teams were in the same conference, oh well, they play in the semifinals or the quarterfinals or whatever. I don't think that's a crazy thing when we're trying to create a national sport. I mean, that's how every one of our professional sports do it. They have their regions, and their regions, tend to filter up. And I think that that's a lot smarter way to do it.
Well, we
Well,
had regions, Tony. We had regions for a long time, and then we started tinkering with it. And
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? No, if you really, what you said, and I think it did contract quite a bit, and I think we lost whole swaths of the country that just lost interest in football. I think that this will be a good step moving back in a direction. I think that how these bigger conferences are now becoming more national conferences, and I think they will continue to expand. I think that will also mitigate this regionalism we have right now. Because again, I think as we see the TV contracts begin to take over this sport more and more, there will be more and more coast to coast because there's TV viewers everywhere, right? And I think they will want to be inclusive.
Yeah, I do. I agree with that. But a thing that I would think would be a good idea. What if we just did away with divisions in the conferences?
I agree with that.
And then have I like the 8-team model the best.
But I think we are getting rid of them, aren't we?
Yeah, I don't think you'll see divisions anymore in any of the conferences.
Well, what is the SEC going to do that?
The SEC is going to do that as soon as Oklahoma and Texas come. They've already decided that we're going to go. Well, they're going to vote on it in the next month, but we're going to go to a 3-6-6 model. We're going to play 3 opponents every year, and then we're going to rotate the other 6, and the top 2 teams are going to play in the SEC championship.
Because as teams like Florida and A&M and teams like that are getting better and better, I think it makes better for home game. Well, games, at those teams, for example, for like Bama, me and you are Alabama fans. So like having, Florida play at Alabama and then because how many years do we get to see? How often do we get to see that matchup? And I think, that is just create a better environment. Same thing for the other conferences like the Big Ten and things like that. I mean, I think that's a great step in the right direction.
I agree with you, Hayden. I would love to see a structural bracket set up so that one of the 4 was the Big Ten, one of the 4 was the SEC, one of the 4 was, I don't know, the ACC or the Pac-12, and one of the 4 was the Big 12 or the G5. Just made that up. Whatever the structure would be, just so you have that. So you have the conferences playing up to each other, and then you really have it feels like a national championship as opposed to like the SEC Invitational.
Mark, we might get that dreaded Ohio State-Michigan rematch on a few different occasions that we've talked about as traditionalists that we weren't necessarily fans of. The one thing I wonder, so nothing is going to get curtailed with the regular season because of this, by the way. I just want to make sure of that, correct? We're still going to stick with a 12-game regular season, and nothing changed with non-conference opponents and then conference schedules because of this, or maybe I shouldn't hold my breath on that one.
Well, the thing that I'm concerned with is what about the opt-outs? Now, we all just assume that no athlete's going to opt out of a playoff situation. But if they just played a conference championship game, which is their 13th game, and they're staring at playing, well, if they lose a conference championship game and they just played a 13th game and they're staring at possibly playing 3 more games to win a national championship.
Actually, 4 more games.
Is it 4?
Yeah.
If they
got
don't,
the first round, quarters, semi, and then
yeah.
Yeah, because you can play 17 games now with with this. That's an NFL season right there.
Yep.
Well, how do we? Another thing is, how do we take these teams like Alabama State and teams like that all these what we call cupcake games, to make sure that they are able to support their programs as well? If we're going to do away with divisions in college football and have it basically to where it's all conference play, how do we ensure that those programs still stay alive?
No, the SEC is going to 9 conference games. They will still have 3 cupcake games if they want, or however they want to schedule it.
You guys going to try and get a tough one in there in the non-conference occasionally?
Hey, Bama always plays one tough team a year.
Hey, now those orphanages and nun convents, they deserve fair play too against LSU. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, remember Troy beat LSU a few years ago?
I know, actually.
Yeah.
And actually, by the way, I give kudos to Alabama and LSU because they used to schedule only cupcakes, and now they actually have a couple of good games. But they do love to have that November 11th game against the Little Sisters of the Poor.
No,
Now we
be
need
honest,
Baylor to do it too. We need
I'm
Baylor to
looking
now
forward-
schedule tougher non-conference games.
I'm looking forward to going to the shoe.
Oh yeah, it's
yeah.
gonna be great.
We
Yeah,
are
we
coming
got
to
Georgia.
the shoe, you know. I mean,
We got Georgia down the road too. You know.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, I also love Alabama was finally like, guys, we're good enough. We can just go and beat these people. We don't have to have cupcakes. Our second team can beat these people.
Well, something me and Marcus talked about before is that I think the schools should not be allowed to do their own scheduling. I think there should be a committee that does the scheduling.
Right, but the NCAA and competence doesn't exactly go together. I mean, you know.
Well, we can formulate a different competence. What if we did it with like all retired coaches, or coaches that have just recently been fired from their programs that can still have a job?
Well, you could still let them schedule, but you could make them have parameters in it. Like, hey, it's not a win if it's not an FBS team.
Because I want to see like the games like
that would be easy.
Like going to the shoe, going to Michigan,
Sure.
them coming to to Alabama, and and vice versa for other teams. Like Notre Dame going to a Georgia or something like that. Those types of games.
I agree. If you want to have a couple of warm-ups, I've never been opposed to that, but at least one of your 3 non-conference opponents should be a big boy. I mean, as an Ohio State fan, I've been excited, when we
Maybe
played.
2.
Well, maybe, yeah, possibly, but I would be like maybe a top 20, 25 team would be maybe my second. Because, I mean, if you go through a schedule and you beat, let's say a major non-conference opponent, you're going to encounter maybe 2 or 3. Like, I know from a Big Ten perspective, we're probably going to encounter 3 or 4 top 15 teams in the Big Ten.
Well, scheduling is also really hard because let's think about a school like LSU. LSU, you could be scheduling the number 1 team in the country, or you could be scheduling a complete garbage dumpster fire. Like, and it's sort of like roll the dice. Like, you schedule it 12 years in advance. So, 12 years from now, will you happen to hit on Joe Burrow, or you happen to hit on whatever happened in the last 2 years?
Yeah.
So, like
doesn't college basketball?
What?
Doesn't college basketball do theirs like the year of, and not like 3 or 4 years in advance? Am I correct in that?
They do some ahead of time, but they do have some openings.
Yeah.
That's what we need in college football right there. I mean, that would solve all that problem of not having home and home. Well, the home and home is in the right direction, but having those other games like we just talked about, I think would be a good step in the right direction.
And let's not forget. So, guys, one thing the Pac-12 did in the COVID year that they did because of the crazy COVID year, but oh my gosh, it worked really well, was the flex scheduling. So because they were hitting the last week, if you guys don't remember, some of you guys might not remember, because the last week they were adding last minute games at the end of the season. So they said, all right, the week of the conference championship game, if you're not in the conference championship, you're going to play another game against an opponent based on how you fall in the conference. And that was cool. Those were all a bunch of really good games that were actually kind of awesome. I mean, and you know what? It worked out just fine.
But whatever you do, Tony, don't take away my cupcake game on week 12. Before we play Auburn, we need that cupcake game.
You guys need to get that prep for the Iron Bowl?
Hey, we do.
The Iron Bowl's tough. The Iron Bowl
last year.
Yeah, that's true.
I will say there's a couple of these games in the world. The Iron Bowl is one. The Backyard Brawl is another. Michigan, Ohio State. Games where just like anything can happen. It doesn't matter how good the teams are. I mean, that god-awful Auburn team should have beaten you guys.
They had you.
And the thing that I love is Nick Saban is totally open about that. Yeah. He'll be like, yeah, it's Auburn. Anything can happen.
But I must point out that Nick Saban has been in favor. People like to talk about Alabama's cupcake schedule, but Nick Saban's been on record multiple times saying that he doesn't like the format in which we have right now. So all this talk about that Nick Saban that Alabama has this cupcake schedule, I don't think all of that's his fault.
No, and we see Alabama play in Miami. We see him play in Texas. We got him playing Ohio State. Like I don't pick on Alabama because also Alabama could replace that cupcake team and still destroy them. So the thing is when you start to sniff a little bit too much of like, how many of the directional Michigan schools are you going to play? Yeah. And then what happens is Pitt loses to them, so it's fine. That happens too.
I mean, some of these cupcakes, they do need some dollars for their programs too. Let's not.
Right.
Yeah, they're there for the paycheck.
Well, maybe that should be like, you know how like Alabama has Alabama State and Alabama A&M. Maybe we should do that based on your state, like because every school, every major program has a college like that in their state, just about
Sure.
it. So maybe we just do it by state.
Yeah,
And a
well,
lot of people don't know Alabama give money to Alabama Birmingham to get their football program back because they gave up football. But to give it back, Alabama actually gave them money to help them get the program back and going.
it's good
And
saving.
although doesn't Alabama Birmingham give Alabama some research money too?
Well,
Probably.
yeah. I mean, they probably give us 80 of the 95 million we got in the research. Don't
Just so you guys know, it's funny. Alabama Birmingham has like 5 times the federal research dollars as regular Alabama.
Yeah.
I think it's where the medical school is, isn't it?
It is.
It's good that Saban
kinda
threw
funny.
a bone to his alma mater, Kent State, a few years ago.
Yeah.
And they've got
Also-
UW tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't know if Sergeant Pickles is on, but we'll throw you a dub for that one.
All right, gentlemen. Hey, it was a pleasure speaking with you about college football. Mark, you guys take care now.
Thanks, David. Appreciate
All right,
it.
guys. I'll let you go too. I just wanted to say it's not all doom and gloom. We got more football, more teams, and I think we fix, or we don't fix, but we like heal a little bit some of the problems that we already have.
I
Could this
agree.
kinda
I
help
agree
the
on a number of
Pac-12?
levels, Tony, but I don't like the selection process.
I don't like the committee. I don't like the committee one bit. But like, I don't know how we get. I like the idea of like you set it up in a structure, and you're like, okay, Big Ten, you get a team to the playoff date on this here. You fill in this spot. If you want to have a round robin, whatever you want to do, you can have 3 playoff games of your own conference, whatever. You go here. SEC, you get one here. Pac-12, ACC, you get one here.
See, I've got a proposed structure,
I would love that.
Tony, that deals with. To me, before you can fix the playoff, you got to fix the scheduling.
Yeah,
You gotta
I
make the
totally
scheduling-
agree.
Amen to
make the
that.
scheduling equitable, and I've built out a system that makes the non-conference scheduling and the conference scheduling needs to be equitable. There's
Mr. Chairman, I move that we nominate the voice of college football for college football commissioner.
yes,
Do I hear a second?
people don't realize that
Permission
in-conference
granted.
scheduling is
I'll second
not
that.
equitable.
All those in favor?
Say aye.
Aye.
Tony,
The motion
build us a
carries.
deck.
Congratulations, Mr. Commissioner.
Tony, of course, you will build us a deck so we can then.
I will. I'll make us a great pitch deck for that. It'll make you the college commissioner.
But
Unfortunately,
I don't know
Mark,
that
you get a
everybody
promotion, but
realizes
no
that
money.
the in-conference scheduling is not always equitable.
I got news for you. The pay would be really good. You'd have an awesome set behind you.
Yeah,
The Pac-12 actually has a studio you could probably have. I think they'd give you a deal on it. You could be down there on whatever Market Street in San Francisco, wherever they are.
Hey, I
know
like
the
this
ESPN has studios that are empty. So
I like the studio setup.
It would really help promote the top 25 that actually makes sense.
It would exactly. All of a sudden, it would be live. Well, actually, no, it wouldn't, because I think Mark has better distribution than the Pac-12 network.
we're working.
So
on
it might hurt his
It's
views.
close right now.
It's close. Hey guys, good to see you.
Nice
Take it
talking with
easy.
Well, it is definitely safe to say that Mark Rogers TV is in more television on sets than on the Pac-12 network. So that's a pretty safe call.
and the old ACC network.
Mark, what were you saying about scheduling equitable schedules?
So I think it hit me about 10 years ago. Listen to this, and I'm sure Jeff can relate to this one. Because you know that the SEC in particular, and all the conferences do this, they've got this rotation of teams in the other division that you play. So you play everybody in your division. You play your one rival in the other division, which some of them are legitimate. We want to see Tennessee and Alabama play every year. We want to see Georgia and Auburn play every year. But why do we have to have Mississippi State and Kentucky play every year? There's no connection between those two. They're just placeholders. South Carolina and Texas A&M. I cannot think of 2 schools in the SEC that have less to do with each other than those 2. But they play every year just because of placeholders. So do away with those, number one. And it hit me about 10 years ago. I'm looking at the SEC schedule, and this is when Bama and LSU were, right there. I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking, Alabama's two crossovers are Tennessee, Kentucky. At that point, those two teams were coming off 1-15 SEC records combined. I look at LSU's two crossover games, Florida and Georgia, 14-2. And I'm like, we've got two teams competing for a division championship. They play each other. They play 5 exact games. There are 2 games that are different. One of them plays 2 teams that went 14-2 last year, and one of them plays 2 teams that went 1-15. And then I started doing that all over the country, and I started coming up with all these inequitable situations. And I'm like, this shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Well, then what we should do, Mark, is we should have you do the scheduling for all the conferences,
Love
and
it.
then you have your. I like your setup because it makes you look like it. You come off more as a real. It's not manufacturing.
No, we need to do better than this, Hunter. Come on. We will do better than this.
It's Mark Rogers' original.
No. Wait, no. I appreciate the sentiment, but no.
See, Mark, and I always said that, and I know there's 5 Power 5, so it don't really work, but I think the beginning of next year, the first game of the year ought to be the Big Ten against the SEC. Your top team from last year plays our top team from last year, 2 plays, and go like that and make, some good competitive games.
I agree from an entertainment standpoint, Jeff, that makes a whole lot of sense and it would be phenomenal. But why are we penalizing Alabama and Ohio State and making them play the best team? See, I would propose an equitable non-conference schedule too. Well, but everybody plays a 500 composite non-conference schedule. I think we all have it in our heads, and I understand the mentality. Just like you're saying, it would be phenomenal for a college football Saturday that every team in the SEC is playing every team in the Big Ten. Well, if we do that, I would want to see the other 2 to 3 non-conference games would have to be worked in such a way that would create equity for the whole composite of the non-conference schedule. Because I don't think you penalize Alabama for being Alabama. And you got to play Ohio State because we want to be entertained. And if you're Tennessee, you get to play Kansas State. Well, or if it's the Big Ten equivalent, you get to play Minnesota. Well, if Tennessee's trending up and they want to compete for a championship, why do they get this advantage?
True.
So I want to see an equitable out-of-conference schedule. Will made a comment about he bashed on Baylor. Baylor is a perfect example. Baylor last played a top 25 team out of conference in 1997. And Tim knows better than anyone, USC plays some brutal non-conference schedules. Shoot, they've scheduled Notre Dame and Alabama in the same season. They played some brute. Stanford a couple years ago when Northwestern was really good in UCF, they played Notre Dame, UCF, and Northwestern. There were their 3 non-conference games. You got
2008, 2009, we played Ohio State and Notre Dame the same season, 2 straight years in a row.
Exactly. And then you got Baylor doesn't want to. They'll and they're starting to loosen up. BYU the last couple of years they scheduled Ole Miss a few years ago, but still. Baylor for a long time was playing Lamar, Sam Houston State, and UTEP. There's their 3 non-conference games. It's like these schools running around scheduling their own games. It's like, do whatever you want. No.
Tim, how hard was that schedule that year? Y'all had Alabama the first game of the season. What was that, 2016?
2016.
Yeah. Well, that game alone, for the psyche of that team, it really knocked them back because going up against that Alabama team was a brutal loss, and they lost a game or two after, dropped a couple of games after that. I say because they're shell shocked. They got shook, as a team. But I mean, talking about your 12 team playoff, that team at the end of the year was pretty damn dangerous. And were they going to beat Alabama? No, but I think at the end of the year they'd have given Alabama a much better game.
Oh yeah.
No, it would have been a heck of a competitive game at the. I mean, I know we would have won, but I think you're only looking at 7 to 10 points versus what was it, 40?
52-3.
Something like that. Jeff, don't remind me. That thing.
Sorry, 52-6.
How bad just got worse from the tunnel out. So I mean, I don't want to forget that here. But yeah, it's a big deal when you go on the road. That's what I'm saying. When you play these games, and injuries too. We lost 3 guys. That's probably part of it as well. We lost 3 guys in that game against Alabama, and if we had warmed up against Rice, right, we probably wouldn't. We don't lose those starters, and who knows? Maybe we do make the playoffs in 2016. You never know.
Hey Tim, you don't talk about Rice with a Bama fan. We're 0-3 against them.
I know.
I don't know how. One day you can explain that one to me. Was it in the 20s? What was it? How long ago was it?
54, 55, and 56.
As Josh Pate says, don't lose the food. Don't lose the food.
And don't lose the toothpaste either. Right.
Who's toothpaste?
Colgate.
Oh, Colgate. Yeah. Does anybody play Colgate?
I just saw
they played last night.
Yeah, they played a week 0 game, didn't they?
Yeah.
But I mean, like,
has Rice ever been good?
they beat Alabama.
Maybe.
Yeah, they beat us 3 times.
Days, maybe they had a few good seasons in there. Probably not.
Well, yeah,
What, back when
Stanford
we had leather
Colgate.
helmets?
Okay.
Now, Mark, do you know the answer to this? Because I don't. Was that 55 Rice game, was that when the Alabama player come off the bench to make the tackle to save the touchdown?
Oh, that's
That
hilarious.
doesn't
I've seen that
sound
play.
familiar, right? That it doesn't sound familiar that being a Rice game. I know exactly what you're talking about. There's actually film of it. You've probably seen.
Yeah, I've seen it. I forgot who the team was, but it happened in 55. So I wonder if maybe that was a Rice game. Or
Well, we can also Google that, of course. I can't tell you that for sure.
Do you live in Alabama?
what was that?
I said, do you live in Alabama?
I live in Mexico City right now.
Oh, okay.
I
Chef's
have
the
lived in
international man of
Alabama.
mystery.
Yes,
Mark,
that was.
Mark only lets me on the show so he can say he's international.
Had I known, I would have. Yes, that was against Rice in the 1954 Cotton Bowl.
Okay, yep, 54.
That is tremendous.
Tim, how do you think UCLA is going to be this year?
Yeah, I really don't know much about their transfers that came in. We're going to look at it tomorrow night, actually, looking at the schedules. But they lose a lot. They lost Dulcich, their tight end. Lost receiver up to Oregon. They lost their best offensive lineman to the draft.
But I like their quarterback, though. I really like that kid.
I mean, so the issue with them is going to be their offensive line. I think, I don't really know. I don't know much about their offensive line. I know when you give Chip Kelly a decent offensive line where he can run, then they're a really dangerous team.
They have a cream puff schedule, though. Just a cream puff schedule.
Yeah. Well, I say how good are they going to be, or what's their record going to be is two different questions. I think their schedule. I think that their record will be solid. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, I don't know enough about. I thought they had a big offensive lineman transfer come in. I could be wrong, but that would go a long way.
Remember.
Do you like Utah to beat Florida?
Yeah, definitely.
I do.
And the only doubt I have, again, like everyone else, is it's in the swamp. That's the reason. That's the wild card there. This game was being played at Rice Eccles. It would be like I think they'd win by 14.
Yeah, the swamp is hard to win in. It really is. I mean, the swamp is going to give Florida the advantage. And I agree with Tim. If it's in Utah, it's a 14 to 17 point win. But seeing that it's going to be in Florida, the good news is it's a 7 p.m. game, so the humidity won't be as bad. But I see it being a 3 to 7 point game.
Are you guys watching the Old Dominion Virginia Tech game?
I was. What happened?
Old Dominion 1st and goal at the 1, down by 4 with a minute to go.
Ooh.
Well, I tell you what, I was in Salt Lake City a few months ago, and it was, hot. It might not have been as humid as it is here in Alabama, but I walked outside and I'm like, good Lord, it's hot. It was 95 degrees. So it's not like it's a walk in the park, in Salt Lake City.
And see, I think that's going to be an advantage for Texas when we play Texas next week. Is we're playing at 11 o'clock, so the heat is going to be a little bit of a factor, which will help Texas a little bit. We're still going to beat them, but I don't like that 11 o'clock kickoff.
I don't like it either.
Utah's could be that humidity factor, not the heat as much, because they play in the heat wouldn't be an issue for them, but that humidity is going to be a beast in the swamp. Look for lots of cramping on both sides, but probably more on the Utah side.
How about that Pitt game last night, guys? That we didn't deserve that game. That was a great game.
I've been asked by Joey not to speak of that game for at least 1 week while they bury the dead. I don't really want to.
It's too bad that game come down to an interception. I mean, that's just. But that's a rivalry game, and like we always say, rivalry games, something stupid always happens, and that's what costs you the game. It's always something stupid.
And it was a type interception, Jeff. You know what I mean? Yeah. Granted, all credit to that kid, man, because when he got that ball, he got into he had one goal. I'm getting into the end zone. He got in that end zone. But the interception was kind of a weak interception right through the dude's hands. That was rough. That
he should have caught that ball, though.
That kid had that kid was having an amazing game. Number 0, I forgot his name. He's got a hyphenated name.
Ford, what was his name?
Ford Wheaton.
That's it.
Ford Wheaton, okay.
He was playing out of his mind until that point, and then it's just. But again, going back, they had a lot of drops. Both teams had drops, but it really seemed like West Virginia had some untimely drops in that game. Otherwise, it may not have been as close as it was.
Well, I can tell you this: I watched Neil Brown at Troy, and watching his teams play. I live about an hour from Troy, and so I got to go to watch them play, and he's a good coach. I mean, he's at a place. He's at a place where he can't really the recruiting is not going to be elite, but if you give him a decent team, he can make some things happen.
I think the penalties hurt West Virginia also. They had a lot of offsides and a lot,
Yeah. I mean, they're running the ball fairly decent. That does change you, right? Puts you behind schedule when you get the stupid, false starts. Yeah, I'm with you, Joe.
Mental errors are always especially in the week 1 game like that, are always going to play a factor. I mean, we see it every year with Alabama. You see Nick Saban at least 3 times a game in the first game just lose his mind on the sidelines because somebody had a false start.
But that Pitt game, even if West Virginia would have won, I'd have felt even sorry for Pitt because that was one of those games you hate to see either team lose the way they were playing.
I had no dog in the fight. All I cared about was that I won my bet, so I was happy.
Yeah, that was the 105th time they played, and I don't think I've ever watched them play a game.
That was a great crowd, too. It really was.
It didn't look like he got in, did he? I don't think so. I haven't seen one angle yet. Looks like he got in.
Looked like he was just short.
This Illinois and Indiana game is shaping up to be a pretty good game.
Oof.
All right, folks out there, we dropped the link in the chat a few times, so please join the show if you want to talk college football, talk playoff, talk the games tomorrow, anything that's on your mind.
Mark, I was doing some research on that App State and North Carolina game.
Yeah.
I think you're exactly right. I think that's going to be a game to watch.
Yeah, I think so. That's North Carolina's. You talk about the few teams that get out there and play non-conference games, but also to play a game that you really can't, quote unquote, win, and to play it on the road. That's pretty ballsy for North Carolina to go out and do that.
But I was impressed by Drake May the other night. I mean, now you got to take into consideration who they were playing, but I thought he played fairly well.
Well, and you also got to think, though, the weather was a big factor, too. And, he completed, 29 of 37, was it?
Yeah, I remember Alabama really wanted him out of high school. And, so, I mean, he's not like a guy. It was crazy last night because almost the two big games, the Purdue and Penn State game, and then the Pitt and West Virginia game, had almost a very similar ending, to it. And so that was crazy to watch. How often do you see that?
I felt like there was also really bad penalties by Purdue there that killed them.
Purdue should have won that game. They really should have.
Hey, I also want to tell everybody out there, if you have not joined Patreon yet, it's the best $5 that you'll ever pay. Every night we get calls going. Also, we have a Discord group, which, we chat on 24/7. So if you're not a member, pay the $5. It's well worth your money.
Oh, by the way, Mark, I was going to ask you about that. I can't figure out how to navigate this Discord.
Okay.
So I don't know if somebody can help me out with that.
Oh, so did you get on Patreon, Hunter?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're on Patreon, but you got to navigate. And I sent you a couple different links, correct?
Yeah, I'm on there, but I don't know how to navigate it.
Okay. Well,
So
you can
try navigating to the national. So on there's a national. I'll pull it myself. If you go to the national channel, right, Hunter?
Yeah, hang on. Let me turn on my screen so you can see what I see. So this is all that I see right here.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with it being on the phone. Is that the welcome page, Hunter? I can't really see it very well.
Yeah, it's a welcome page.
So for the chat, yeah, I'm not familiar with on the phone, but from
I don't do it on the phone either.
Actually, Hunter, Tim, because I'm not really good at this. In this chat here on the StreamYard, why don't you write your name in there, and he could Google your name, and then once he friends you, it'll be easier to find the group.
Okay. All right. Let me do that right quick. I'm about to drop it in there. Okay. So I gotta find out what my thing is.
Well, this time tomorrow night, we're pretty much going to know who's won the big game.
Yeah.
For as much as we like to slam on Alabama's schedule, Jeff, of course, Texas next week, but that Utah State team is no joke. Alabama's going to throw up a huge score on them, but it'll come against a good team.
Well, UConn was competitive against Utah State, so who knows?
Yeah, just going by, of course, winning the Mountain West last year. I know that they typically don't. They're not a San Diego State or a Air Force when it comes to competing in that conference usually, but they're coming off a great year. So that's not, 75% of the teams in the country would struggle against them.
Yeah.
To some extent.
Hey Tim, my username on there is Poker15.
Poker15. All right, I'll check it out, and then I can walk you through it once. Maybe after the show, I can walk you through where to go. And if you message anybody in there as well, Mark, who's the I'm
in there right now.
Maybe you could share your screen and you could walk them there.
There we go.
And then everyone can see all the messages and what's going on there. That'd be a good little
there we go.
Commercial.
Up on the other deal here.
Yeah, and like I said, it's the best $5 you'll ever spend. I mean, we have a lot of fun in there. Tim, I might do some predictions on my show tomorrow. If I do, bet against me, and I guarantee you'll be rich by the end of the night.
I rarely bet during the season, and I look for those games that are like just I feel really good about, and that's when I kind of go big. I don't really bet weekly.
What do we want to see here, Tim?
So do you see left? Do you see on the left there, Hunter?
Mm-hmm. See, I don't see that general tab. So how'd you get to that general tab?
Oh, go up to so you're gonna click on the left column, all the way to the left there, Mark. If you go see the column of the icons there, go down to where it says Mark Rogers TV or the Mark Rogers, right?
See, here's what I see. I see start here, welcome, rules, and announcements.
Go to rules. I think you got to go to rules.
Yeah, go rules first.
Yeah.
And then you hit the like button in one of those.
Well, you guys are way ahead of me on this.
I did this like months ago, so I'm trying to remember
Scroll
how
up.
you.
Well, I know I did it too, but I don't remember now.
Yeah. So scroll up. And then
Okay,
hit
I just reacted to the rules.
Okay, so now you should have it should open up the different channels for you. So go over to the Mark Rogers on the left column, the icon that says Mark Rogers Voice of College Football, and click on that. And once you click on that, all of the channels are going to pop up, and the majority of the time we're in the main channel.
Okay.
So you go the national. There says national, national news.
Right on the member announcements. Let's see. Rules.
But there's different channels for Pac-12, SEC, ACC, Big 12, right? There's all kinds of channels, but we usually hang out in that national news channel, and that's where you're going to see a lot of the links for when we do like the StreamYard parties we do and watch parties. That's where you would find it.
Well, see, nothing's changed on my side. Let me see. Let me do this real quick. So this is.
Oh, Mark, you got to click on the little phone down the bottom there, with an X next to it. To your right, up.
Right here?
No, up to the right a little. Just up to your right. The phone up.
The phone, the phone.
Up, right
Upper
above
right?
you.
Just a hair.
No. You were there, right above it.
Oh,
yeah, there. Because you're in a voice channel. But if you go to the text, news text, and then you see right there, that's the StreamYard link. Usually we have different like StreamYard events, stuff like that. You can link it, join up with us. But it's also just a place where we just drop, smack and information, etc. But it's super fun. It's all the guys that are here usually on the live shows are all in there. So you can join us anytime.
Okay, Mark, I just sent you a friend request on there. So.
All right. So what am I supposed to do with that?
or Tim, what's your name on here?
My name's just my name. It should be Tim Prangley in there somewhere.
Okay.
Just look through the national news text. You'll see me. You can just click on it and mention me.
And this picture will be SC, so it's real easy to find.
Well, see, I've reacted to the rules thing, and I still don't see it's still not.
Did you react to the right one? Did you react to the one that we told you to?
It's the top one. It has like 100. It has 100. It's like a bunch of thumbs ups.
Yeah, it has 40, and I gave it a thumbs up. Let's see.
Well, let me work on it with you.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
I think we're killing Mark's show.
I got it.
So
are you in the national news text?
Yep, national news text. That's where.
Okay, I got you. Thank y'all for helping me with that. I got it now. Thank y'all.
Write hi on there, and we'll add you as friends. And
all right, Tim, I just sent you a request as well. So thanks for helping me with that.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, we're on there all the time, putting messages in. But then almost every night, more nights than not, we're gonna all be getting together at least for an hour or two to talk about football. So you're more than welcome to join us.
And be careful if you got to work the next day, because we'll ramble on, and it'll be 1:30, 2 o'clock before you realize it.
Hey, Mark, I think we got Larry Pilgrim talking about the Utes and the Gators.
Oh, what am I missing here? In the national feed?
Oh no, right here. Can I bring him on? He's
my
he's
bad.
in the queue.
Yeah, heck yeah. Oh,
sorry. What's up, Larry?
Hey, Tim, how you doing?
I'm well. Welcome.
Getting pumped up. Got to make that 3-hour drive to Gainesville tomorrow. So a little nervous. Hope I don't jinx the team. So
Hydrate well, Larry. It's going to be one of those days. Make sure you hydrate.
I don't know. I lived in Salt Lake for 40 years and I've been down here for a little over 2. I don't know. The humidity, because you get these trade winds, it's like the air is not, I don't know. It's not as bad as people make it out to be. I've lived in Biloxi and I've lived up north. This isn't horrible. You get in the middle of Mexico, that's bad. This isn't bad down here.
Are you a Utah or Florida fan?
I'm a Utah fan living in Florida.
Okay.
So,
where in Salt Lake did you live?
I lived in the whole Salt Lake County. It's like, 20, 30 miles. It's a big bowl. I've lived
I got a friend of mine that lives in Mill Creek.
Yeah, and I lived in Las Vegas for 3 years. If you want to talk about hot, that's hot. This isn't hot. That's hot.
It's a dry heat.
Yeah, it's just different. I think down here, being at sea level is probably, athletes love to train at high altitude. You come down here and it's like your lungs become alive after getting out of that elevation. So anybody that's been to both climates can, the humidity's kind of hard, but it's, I don't know, at 7 o'clock, it's not bad. 4 o'clock with no breeze, it can get a little sticky.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited. You guys got to carry the banner. I just don't, I'm just not feeling it with the Ducks. So if the Pac-12 is going to make a statement this year, it's definitely going to be you guys.
Did you see Uncle Lou's Hype and Hate?
I haven't. No, I missed it.
Oh boy, he says he talked about if the Pac-12 were football fans, we'd care. And then it was funny because he kind of said if I wanted to learn about Sasquatch, Oregon's got us there, but we got him in football. I was like, oh, it was crazy. He was bashing them pretty good. So. Ugh.
Yeah, I just think that Oregon's got a lot of moving parts. They got new staff in there, and they're going to run to a buzzsaw with a team that's riding a wave right now.
They're pretty good. I'm glad we're going to get Broughton back. We missed him. He played at BYU, and then he was out the rest of the season, and he was an all-Pac corner. So I don't know if people realize that we're going to have 2 really good corners there. I mean, we're talking lockdown. They held down those BYU receivers. We had Phillips on one side and Broughton. BYU's got some pretty good receivers, and Jaron Hall killed us in that game because we did pretty good against those 3-4 receivers they got. So,
how's your linebackers?
That's the question. We got 4-star. We got 2 kids that were almost 5-star. One was a top 10 in the 2020 class, or 2021. And then Barton was a top 10 in the 2022 class. They just don't have any experience. And so
that's what Georgia's going to do against you. They got those tight ends. So, I mean, that's
Florida.
Yeah,
I'm not a
Florida,
duck.
I'm sorry.
I'm a duck hunter. I'm not a duck.
No, they got
You're a
Florida's
duck
got
cruncher,
good tight
actually.
end too, and that's where they're going to try to do is go over the middle.
Yeah, actually, I think whoever's linebackers play the best is going to win this game because I think that's both teams' weaknesses and also what both teams like to attack with. Utah's based on running and tight ends, which is, that's all on your strong safety and linebackers to stop.
Well, yeah, Keefe and Kincaid. I know everyone talks a lot about the Georgia tight ends, but I've been watching those guys for a couple of years. It seems like a couple of years now, and those guys are about as good as they get as well. So I think you might be giving them some fits over the top. Who's the running back this year?
So Tavian Thomas is still number 1, and then Micah Bernard is relief, and then that Mr. Florida, which is funny, Mr. Florida, that new recruit we got, Jalen Glover. He was the 6A state Florida MVP, and so you're going to see some of him. He could be that next little Ty Jordan. He's really that good. So,
how's y'all's secondary going to be?
Secondary's good. Actually, what's funny is our starting free safety was injured in camp last year. So Vontae Davis was actually the backup, and he played the whole year. So we've got Hubert coming back, and he's healthy. And then we've got a All-American FCS transfer. And then I'm sure you guys remember the name Cole Bishop, who had a hell of a game against the Ducks twice. That's our strong safety. So he's pretty good. Remember Brandon McKinney, Tim, up at Washington?
Yeah, the name sounds familiar.
He transferred to Utah last year at free safety, and after 7 games, he lost his starting role to Cole Bishop, a true freshman, because we couldn't stop a mobile QB with McKinney. And as soon as they put Bishop in, you saw Anthony Brown had no luck on the ground against Utah. So
Yeah.
See, and that's what you're going to need tomorrow. I mean, because AR-15, he can move.
Yep, that's my concern. Is the guy with the most snaps would be Reed at linebacker, and he's okay, but he's better in pass. He's better in pass pro than he is in defending the run. Except he did drop an interception in the Rose Bowl, hit him right in the hands, and he dropped it, and that would have gave Utah the ball back. And so he's going to be probably starting, from what I'm hearing.
He threw me for a curveball there because I thought for sure Tavion Thomas. He was like a 1,000-yard rusher, right?
Yeah, he's the starter. He missed 3 games or something. He had fumble issues against BYU, so they benched him, and then he missed the game against Arizona. Yeah, he had 1,100 yards in like 10 games.
Yeah, I was gonna say because I had thought he went to maybe because of the injury he didn't go. I thought he got went to the NFL last year, but so I'm even feeling better about your guys' offense now. Actually, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, Pledger went to the NFL, but Chris Curry is still on the team as well. So they've got, and what's funny is what Whittingham's got all 4 running backs listed as starters.
Yeah, well, Thomas is no joke. That guy, I think that guy can be your bell cow. He's like a 5-yard. Do you have the stats? I think he averaged like well over north of 5 yards to carry.
It's 20
he was
touchdowns.
5.5, and then Bernard was 6 per clip.
Yeah.
So even the freshman running back Glover that you've got them listed as a starter as well.
Yeah, but I guess he's next generation. I guess he was doing really good. I don't know if you saw the spring game. He's pretty good. He's definitely one of those guys. Moss got a lot of carries. Zach Moss got a lot of carries his true freshman year. And so Glover's that good. He's going to be getting some reps. So,
I mean, he had a bunch of. I'm looking at his recruiting profile now, and if it kind of gives you an idea of, he had offers from just about everybody you can think of.
Well, Tavion Thomas, if his academics would have been good, he would have been at Ohio State.
I say, how do you get out of Ohio?
Yeah. He was originally committed to Ohio State, but he couldn't get in. I don't know if he didn't pass the exam entrance. I don't know, but he ended up going to Cincinnati, and he got kicked off the team for academics. Had to go the JUCO route, and then got his stuff up to snuff, and that's when Utah found him. But yeah, he was actually an Ohio State commit, but academic-wise, he couldn't get in. So he's that good.
One thing that I'm interested in this Utah-Florida game is Mahamoud Diabate. Is a transfer from Florida, and he's going back to the Swamp, trying to take Devin Lloyd's role. I don't know if he probably won't be as good as Devin Lloyd, but it's interesting to see if he can really do some damage.
Right. Well, Diabate, in my opinion, was very wise to go there because what's really crazy is Utah's put the last 5 linebackers that have started since 2018 have all went to the NFL. Not one of those guys they were all 3-star. Nephi Sewell was a 0.75 or 0.80 3-star who was at Nevada. He just signed on the practice squad at New Orleans. So Diabate was very smart to go to Utah to get developed.
Who's going to be the
So-
starting quarterback?
Oh, go ahead.
Cam Rising.
That's a strength of their team right there.
Yeah. He's
I
actually,
couldn't remember if they had the quarterback returning or not.
I think he's the 5th or 6th highest rated QBR quarterback returning in college football this year.
And it's not just the numbers, just the intangibles with him. Utah, you guys were able to score after he went down, but you could see just all the energy go off that team for a moment. And again, that kid came in and balled out, but Cam, he's just electric, man. With him in the game, and again with Kincaid and Keefe, he's gonna. I think he's gonna have a breakout game. They're gonna be talking about him. He might vault himself into the Heisman conversation in a serious way after that game. I really think he has a great game.
Well, both Kincaid and Kuthi were invited to the NFL Combine last year, and they both went. To have 2 tight ends on your team return that were invited to the Combine, it's that tells you something. So I think it is down to the linebacker play for both sides. I think whoever can have the better linebacker play is probably going to win the game.
Yeah, none of these teams want to put safeties in the box. They don't want to have to resort to that for sure.
Yeah, well, Utah's got their strong safety, Cole Bishop. He's 6'3", 205, and he's really good against the run. And I think they've got the guys to man up. I think they might be able to keep him in the box, Will. I'm not sure, but Kyle Whittingham is always about stop the run first. So they're either going to play 3 linebackers or a down safety with 2 linebackers. So, but when it gets to the red zone, I'll almost bet you they're going to have 3 linebackers in. If Florida gets to the red zone, they're going to go with a 4-3-4.
What is the forecast for Gainesville? Because I got a friend of mine that lives down in South Florida, and he said it's been raining almost every day down there.
Yeah, it rains down here every evening at like 6. It's weird because it's like 5, it's overcast, and it'll rain from 6, 7 o'clock, and it cools down to about 80 degrees, and there's actually a cool fill in the air. So I think it's projected to be like 80 to 83 degrees, slight rain for kickoff, like 60% chance. So it's not, I don't know. I haven't been inside that stadium, so I don't know if it's going to the humidity gets trapped in there, but.
Well, it barely ever rains in Salt Lake City.
No, you got to do a rain dance there. So, and it still won't rain.
Justin, what's going on?
Hey, what's up, Mark? How you been?
I'm good.
I'm trying to figure out how to get into your Discord channel here.
Discord. Well, these guys are the experts. What do you need? I gave you the so if you go to Patreon and sign up there, that's how you get into. It's a Patreon related Discord.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll have to wait. My stupid debit card or bank got hacked again, so my debit card's in the mail.
Well, just know that when you go in there, you got to go to the rules section first and hit the like on the rules, and then it'll give you the drop down to all the different servers in there. I had to do that. I didn't know that until tonight, so they helped me out with that. So
go to rules and what then? You hit the like.
Yeah, you got to hit the like button.
You just got to react to that first rule section and under rules. Meaning you've read the rules, you understand.
Yeah. Let me see if I can figure that out. All right.
Anything on your mind, Dustin?
I wrote some things earlier with this. I'm kind of just getting into the 12-team playoff thing, and I'm wondering how this is going to affect the whole season, because say you get a team that lays an egg on the first game of the season, and then but they start playing really good football at the end. So, to me, I want the best teams in the playoffs. So even if you are a 3-loss team, if you lost early, but you're playing great football at the end of the season, then you should be in. So is this going to affect? It's good. I think it's going to affect every game. Like right now, I guess the playoffs. Every game pretty much matters for the most part. It's going to affect that a lot, I believe.
Well,
That
Justin, the evaluation process is exactly the same. We've got a committee that's ranking the teams.
Yeah, no,
Same ranking system.
I see all this is going to change, though. Honestly, I mean, it has to. The committee has to change. I mean, we can't go into this like this. It's going to be screwed up.
It already is screwed up.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we can't. That's why the committee's going to have to change. I mean, I don't see it. I don't see us going in 2026 or maybe even 2024. I don't see us going into it with the committee we have right now. It's got to change. I mean,
Well, they change members. They're not going to change the scope of the committee or their responsibilities. It's the committee. But yeah, they change out members.
Yeah, well, I think some other things are going to have to change. Honestly, obviously. I mean, you guys know that. We ain't going to get there.
What would be a good model if we to have sort of a playoff system? What would you replace the committee with?
That's a good question, man. I mean, how do we get to a non-biased committee too? Like that's huge. Yeah. What do we do? Bring Congress in?
Record.
Yeah, record.
Win conference championships.
Do we use computers?
Record. Head to head. I went through the last 15 years and I applied a system that awarded. And again, this is why you fix the scheduling first, because then the record becomes more valid. And you go by record, you go by head-to-head, and you wouldn't think that there would be many head-to-heads. I came across a lot of head-to-head meetings that had to be figured out, like Penn State and Minnesota a couple of years ago were both 11-2, and playoff spot on the line. Well, Minnesota beat Penn State. Penn State's gone. There was an SEC matchup at the same year, like I forget who it was. Anyway, same thing. So head to head. And then number 3, I think you go to a strength of record, which combines basically how difficult your schedule is with how dominant you were against your schedule. And you go with those 3 factors and you don't need a committee.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, but how do we get to there, Mark? How do we get there?
You get me to 1 million subscribers and
there you go.
Listen to me.
We voted earlier. We named Mark as the
honorary
commissioner of college football.
Yeah, I've been on watching you guys the whole time. I heard it. I nominated you.
So you guys are thinking with common sense, and that doesn't work with the NCAA.
Exactly. Common sense don't work with nothing in this world anymore. I was in the Army for 12 years, man. There's no common sense ever.
Oh, no. Yeah. I know some people in the Army right now. They would say the same thing.
Yep. Common sense.
Doesn't make you feel better. It wasn't any better in the Marine Corps either.
There's a radio show here in Alabama, and they have a saying that they say that common sense is a superpower.
It's what?
Common sense is a superpower.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Common sense ain't that common.
Get that to Marvel. They can probably copyright and make money off of it, I'm sure.
So anyway, what else is going on, man? So we got the playoffs. So you guys excited for this? More football? Or are we getting?
Football. Yep.
I'm excited for it. I mean, we're always going to be sitting here arguing about everything. I mean, we're never going to be perfect, but it's more football. What the hell?
No, even what I propose, even though I think it's a good system, it's not perfect. You're not going to have a perfect system, but
that makes more sense.
There's too many teams.
Yeah,
I liked Joel Klatz. He did the 12 playoff team thing last year, and it showed all the teams in the top 12, and it was the matchups were just, I mean, they looked great. Whether I don't care who won or lost, like they were just a lot of out of conference.
I love
good
Platt,
game.
but I found a lot of holes in his proposal.
In the 12 team?
Yeah. First of all, I don't like the 12 teams because you got buys, and you can't fairly award buys. You just can't. It's not the NFL. If it were the NFL, you can do that because all the teams play each other. So you can award buys and say you earned a buy, you earned a buy, you didn't earn a buy because you're 13-3 as a division champion, you're 11-5 as a division champion. You beat you, so you earned the buy. But in college football, there's not enough teams that play each other to say you earned the buy, you didn't earn the buy.
Yeah.
Last year, Ohio State, Baylor, Utah, Oklahoma State would have been fine with getting that extra game to possibly make it a little further. You know, so you're not going to complain about not being in the top 4 and you know, okay, we have to play another game. I think being a conference champion gives you that incentive, you know. So I don't know, just high inside, I guess 6 of one, half dozen another.
Yep.
Well, the one thing this does, though, is it benefits the Big 12 and the Pac-12.
Yes.
They're now guaranteed to be in pretty much. You know, I mean.
Is the Pac-12 going to stay around, though? I mean, they're getting absorbed. Look at what's going on. This super conference shit's happening. Oops, sorry. This super conference stuff's happening, man. I think
the
Pac-12
is going to help. Expanded playoffs going to help keep them together a little more, I think.
Is it?
I would think so.
It's gonna
I just don't like the erosion of the traditional bowl games that we've always had. That's the thing that I don't like about all this.
I know. I wrote something a long time ago on the chat about that, about how, bowl games now, like, and then listen to this too, like, so. For example, Alabama number 1, Georgia number 2, Michigan number 2, whatever it works out. Do we start having home field advantage games in the playoffs?
Yes.
Or we still
do? You do.
It's happening.
I like that idea. I think that's hey, come to the big house and play.
I think you need
come to the big house and play in December.
Because otherwise you have the loser of the SEC championship game. You have the 2 teams competing, let's say, for the SEC championship game, and with the mentality, you know what, we can lose this game and still make the playoff. Okay, you want to take that attitude? You want to lose the SEC championship game? Okay, you got to play a first round playoff game, and we're sending you to Madison, Wisconsin in December to play Wisconsin or somebody like that.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I love that.
Hell yeah, I love that. Come to the big house.
The meaningful games that are going to be played, maybe possibly in the North.
That'd be crazy. I mean, that's been a huge thing throughout history, man. Look at the Rose Bowl. Michigan made all these Rose Bowl appearances. Ohio State too, and we're playing on their home field, right? So our record in the Rose Bowl isn't that great, but we still want to get there every year. But yeah, imagine having that home field advantage. Hey, come up to the snow, man, and play in the cold ass winter.
Well, Mark, in your system, how do you keep the integrity of the bowl games?
Exactly, that's another huge point.
Well, they're broken already. I mean, there's very few meaningful ones. But I'm sorry, Mark. That was your question.
No, I appreciate it. You really don't. In my estimation, you don't. But I think what would suffice to a certain extent for some people is you just use the bowl games as part of the playoff. You funnel the bowl games into the playoff. And that takes up how many games in a 12-team playoff? How many games are we talking about?
Well, there'll be 7 because the first 4 games will be at a campus. So
True.
Then you got the quarterfinal, there's 4 games, the semifinals 2 games, and then the championships 1. So that's 7 bowls you'll eat up.
You know what's an amazing, and I can't take any credit for this. I've heard Tony talk about it, Matt Zemek on Trojans Wire, is you go back, and we're never going to do this because we're already at this 12-team playoff, but you go back to 1985 and you go to the old bowl system and you make the playoff go
Right.
as a next level off of the bowl system. So it means something to play in the Rose Bowl because you got to win the Rose Bowl to make the playoff. And you determine the playoffs after you have a +1 or a +2 after all the traditional. So we still have New Year's Day with the Orange Bowl and the Rose Bowl, and they mean a ton because you got to win to make the playoff.
Right.
Absolutely. That's what we all want. I think most of us want that.
Well, I remember we were screaming not too long ago for just the +1 model, right? So we let the Bulls shake out, and then we do, okay, fine. Let it settle. Who's 1 and 2? Have them play for the playoff. That would have handled most things, but again, well, that ship has sailed.
I was
that
in
was one game.
I like that +1. The +1 would have been nice.
But I do think that what we have done in college football ever since we've started the playoff system, as we've entered down the slippery slope, and my question is, where does this end? Are they just going to keep on changing it and modifying it every 2 to 3 years because they found out something that they didn't like?
It ends when the money runs out.
Yeah,
It's about money, Hunter. It's not about what they don't like. They just want to make more money.
Well, I know. What I'm saying is that's what I mean. Once they get to a part where they're not making as much money as they want, do they just go modify it from now to the end of time?
Yeah, that's a big point, man. I mean, look at where we've come from since 98, 99. Then we go BCS, then we're in this playoff, and then we're gonna go. Now we're going straight to 12 instead of 8. Like, yeah.
I personally think it stops at 16. I think within 4 to 6 years, people are going to say we need to get it to 16 and eliminate the buys, and then we're at 16.
Why not 64? I mean, at that point,
that
keep
would
on going.
Why even play a regular season if you're gonna do that? That would be well, I guess if it's one and done, man, 64.
I mean, I'm being sarcastic, but I mean,
Yeah.
you get my point.
I get it. That would be some crazy shit. That would be nuts. But hey, you'd see some crazy games though that happen, like some games that you never see. Like, God, what would be a good example? Like a USC versus trying to think of a
Clemson.
Yeah, there you go, Clemson. Something never happened before. You'd see some craziness. That would be kind of cool, though. Seeing some games never, some cross country games that never happened.
Will, where do you see Notre Dame landing? Do you think they end up going into a conference, or do you think they're still going to stay independent?
Right now, we're definitely going to stay independent. Unless if we have to join a conference to make the playoff, we're going to stay independent.
Well, you guys won't get a bye, Will.
You're
not.
That's not a deal breaker for us.
I mean, I think it's a
crazy. Will, that's just crazy to me.
You don't think Notre Dame's going to join a conference in the next 3 years?
No, sir.
Really?
No.
So the bye's not a deal breaker, but like we talked about earlier, I don't think they would ever do this. But I would also tell Notre Dame, you're never going to host a playoff game either.
Yeah,
you're always going to play on the road.
Sorry, Will.
But damn, I mean that's hard. That's hard. That's cold right there. I mean, you're not going to host a playoff game at the stadium at South Bend. I mean, that's historic right there.
Notre Dame can't be the stuck-up wench anymore.
Exactly.
I think
I'm sick of talking about them, but
I think they're eventually they're going to be forced into it. I don't think they're going to have a choice at some point.
Yeah, I agree totally. In the next 3 years, I think Notre Dame will be in a conference. In my opinion, I think they're going to have to, and they'll go to the ACC.
But here's the question: what's gonna force them into going?
Because they're going to lose an advantage, and let's say they do. Let's say that they in the next 2 or 3 years they get to the tier to where they can compete, for a national, for the playoff. I mean, I just think with all these conferences, I think they're just doing themselves a disservice. But
not
see,
that's
to
the
be
problem. They don't see it as a disservice. They want
No,
to be
they
able
don't.
to pick their own schedule. They don't want to be dictated to by a conference. Money doesn't matter to Notre Dame. The only thing that matters to them is a playoff. And since this playoff now has 6 conference champions go and 6 at large, as long as the 6 at large, Notre Dame will stay independent.
Yeah, if it had been 8, and there were 6 conference champions and only 2 at large, that would have put a lot more pressure on them to join the conference. But having 6 at large, that's why Schwarber from the very beginning was all, 12 team, let's go, let's do, 12 team, let's do it, right? It's like
I can't believe they made that jump. Honestly,
you didn't need to be a mathematician to figure out why they were so happy that 6 at large teams were going to get in. You know, it guarantee they're getting in.
That's pretty much
all they have to do is be a top 12 team, and they can do that.
That's pretty much guaranteeing Notre Dame being in almost every playoff for a while. I mean, as long as they keep their caliber of playoff. But yeah, I guess I see your point on that. I don't see.
Is the Stanford USC tradition going to remain even after all this realignment, Tim? You think? I mean, once USC gets in there, are they going to, like Utah with BYU? It's like, we kind of wanted to stop playing them because it's like we have other stuff to worry about. It's your Super Bowl. You're just a pain in our butt. We don't want to play you anymore because it means nothing to us. That's why Utah doesn't like to play BYU, because we have nothing to gain and so much to lose. If we lose to them, if you beat BYU, you don't get credit. But if you lose to them, you lose credibility.
Notre Dame dropped Michigan State like they were a hot rock. You know what I mean? And they've been playing, I don't know how many consecutive years that they played Michigan State. I think it would be in USC's best interest, plug your ears, Will, if they didn't have to go back to South Bend every other year, given all the travel they're doing already, adding another trip to the Midwest when it's maybe not necessary. But here's why it will continue, because there's just way too much money in that game, especially when USC and Notre Dame are relatively up at the same time. That game's as big as any. I might get some pushback, but if USC and Notre Dame are both in the top 10, that game's going to be among the most highly watched games of the entire year. That's up there with Alabama, Auburn. That's up there with
they're blue bloods. They're blue bloods. I mean, it's going to be
it would be up there.
Yeah.
If we get top 5, that'd be insane. So yeah, I see it remaining.
How many times did that game determine a national champion? You knocked out Notre Dame, so that knocked them out of the contention, and vice versa. I mean, that's an important game.
I got a traditional bowl lineup for this past season, 2021, and I got a +2. Here it is. Rose Bowl, Big Ten champ Michigan, Pac-12 champ Utah. Sugar Bowl, SEC champ Bama against Michigan State. Orange Bowl, ACC champ Pitt against Ole Miss. Fiesta Bowl, Big 12 champ Baylor against Cincinnati. Peach Bowl, Georgia, Oklahoma State. Cotton Bowl, Notre Dame, Ohio State. Let's say your favorites win.
I love it.
That would have been great. I like that.
Let's say all your favorites win. I got Michigan, Bama, Pitt, Baylor, Georgia, Notre Dame winning the games just because they had the better records. Your final 4 would be all 1-loss teams: Bama the 1 seed, Michigan the 2, Georgia the 3, Notre Dame the 4. There's your playoff.
So it's almost the same. You just put Notre Dame in place of Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I'm making a ton of assumptions about who's going to win the games. It could be,
that would have been that lineup right there would have been sweet. Holy crap!
Those were nice games, and they would have actually tried to play to win them.
That would have been sweet.
So yeah, you have to win.
I love that. I really want to see. I want to see more matchups against these top caliber teams. I want to see these teams, man. I want to see Oklahoma State play Ohio State, or a Notre Dame, Ohio State in the playoff. That's huge. And a Michigan, Bama, like Michigan, Georgia. We got to get rid of, like last season, the blowouts. I mean, that obviously Michigan laid an egg, and Cincinnati laid an egg, and then Georgia laid an egg. I don't want to see that in the playoffs. I want to see some games.
But unfortunately, by adding more games, you're going to see more blowouts. I'm afraid to tell you.
Sure.
Yeah.
And also,
here's what happened.
Football, though.
Here's what happened today.
So I like
your grandma out of the farmhouse was sitting there with her 5-quart pot, and she was making her homemade chicken soup that everybody loves. And the neighbor walked in with a quart jar of water and poured it in there and said, "There you go." And all of a sudden, grandma's soup became watery down broth. That's all that's happened today, is they've watered it down.
It's not the same analogy.
And all the inclusion heads, and all the anti-Bammers and all the anti top teams, they're going to all come with, well, let's put Cinderella in the dance. Cinderella showed up in the dance last year, and she got her ass shown to the door 3 minutes after the game started.
That was ridiculous.
4 is enough. 8 would be fine. How you're going to fairly give out buys? And I'm with Mark. Mark and I talked about this together 2 months ago. If we're going to do anything crazy, play the 6 and then pick 2. Play the New Year's 6 and then pick 2, and let those 2 decide the national championship.
Well, here's the bottom line. Here's the bottom line about all this. No matter which system you go for, somebody's going to complain about it. I mean,
yes, of course.
That's never going to stop. We go 60-14, then you're still going to have complaints. I mean, that's just part of it. I mean, we're going to have to deal with it. That's always going to be a part of it.
You know, if we go by what we're supposed to do, based on statistics, all of this, I don't know why the season even has a game 1. Whoever has the highest recruiting class wins the national championship. You know, that's just how it goes. You know, you hear, well, you got to have this many blue chips. You got to have this. You got to have that. And it's like, we play the game to win. If you're a blue blood, it's nice. But I'm a Utah fan who was in a group of 5. And I was hoping we wouldn't get embarrassed in the Sugar Bowl by Alabama. How did that turn out? Whether they wanted to be there or not, I don't care. They took the L. So,
and how have those 2 teams fared since then?
Well, let's see. That Utah's been in a Power 5 for 10 years. You can't go in with a G5 roster and start competing. You have to get up to having just starters to compete every week in a P5. Then it's going to take you 6-7 years to get depth. So it's a climb.
I think those losses, the consecutive losses after going 12-0, and then to lose to Tebow, and the emotions involved in that, in the SEC championship game, and then to go lay an egg against Utah, I think that started the dynasty. That was last piece missing.
Well, that pissed Saban off.
That was the last insult they needed.
Right.
Can I make an observation here?
Yeah.
Last night we had witnessed some amazing football. We are in football season.
You bet.
Tonight was maybe not as great a games. Tomorrow we are looking at some great football, and all we can talk about is something that may be 2 to 4 years away.
Well, it's not announced. They need to, that, and that's the first thing I said when I started this stream was I said, why do they have to announce this tonight?
Yeah.
Right.
Let's do this. We got all this news to talk about during the off season. We should have figured this out a month ago. We could have talked about it a month ago.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I've been watching.
I agree 100%, Mark.
I don't know if anybody else has.
All the time in politics, Mark.
I've been
Friday news dump, and what they did is before a 4-day week, a 3-day weekend. Yeah, on a Friday for a 3-day weekend, they did a nice news dump by saying, "All right, we want to push this through. We don't want a bunch of backlash in the news. We're going to slam it in right now." It's perfect timing. I wish they knew the whole time.
And we're gonna all forget about it. We have some great games, hopefully, at least.
They're acting like CNN.
Well, the thing
there's
is,
a great game going on.
When we
there's
get
a great
to the
game going on right now.
Yeah, this Indiana-Illinois game is turning out.
I've been watching this Illinois-Indiana game.
And the old fashion.
Did you guys think MSU look like a number 15 team tonight?
Michigan State, that the refs, fuck. That's my alma mater, Western Michigan.
I knew that might get some comments out of you.
Man,
This is an old-fashioned Big Ten slobber knocker we have on.
yeah, this is
Well,
good.
and I tell you what, if you've been watching this game, there have been 2 or 3 replay calls that have gone against the Illini, including one that overturned a touchdown. That were, I think, pretty amazing. Let's put it that way. To the point where how they got the talking head off screen, and we'll go to Los Angeles to our repay, rules official or whatever. And all 3 times he said, I don't understand why they came to this conclusion. Why the replay official came to this. And all 3 of those have burned Illinois. Illinois running back Chase Brown, who ran for over 150 yards last week for Wyoming, is closing in on 200 yards tonight against Indiana. So this doesn't mean that Illinois, if they hang on to win this game, is going to finish 7-5. They could finish 2-9. But it does mean that Bielema, who likes to run the ball and play punch you in the mouth Big Ten football, he's getting his offensive line built.
Yep.
Well, can somebody please answer to me, what is targeting? Because last night I was so frustrated.
Yeah, that's.
Man, I think we could probably review. Well, I mean, there's obviously targeting plays out there, but since targeting's been out there, I mean, how many times can we look at it and be like, "Come on"?
I got to tell you something,
right? And they sit there with a quarter and they do a coin toss, and then and it goes up heads, you throw them out, tails, you overrule it. That's literally how arbitrary this is getting at this point.
I have to
share this with you, but you can't say it's official because when the guy told me this, he says this is completely off the record. The guy I was talking to was Iowa State Athletic Director Jamie Pollard, and we were talking about what's a catch and what's not a catch. And he says, they always go back to New York, and this guy's looking at it in a room somewhere. He says, what they got to have is they got to have 2 guys in the room. And if the 2 guys, one votes one way and one votes the other, then the tiebreaker is just some random 12-year-old you picked off a peewee league. And if the 12-year-old looks at it and goes, yeah, that's a catch, then it's a catch. Because very often they know they're going to make a better decision than the 2 officials are.
That's the issue when you start getting older. You get this bias. That's the huge thing in college sports, man. Bias.
And Jamie Pollard just said, just let a 12-year-old decide it. They know whether the guy caught the ball or not.
Hey,
There's one situation that's been going on, and I don't know, I've seen it in quite a few college games where actually they need to throw the flag for a defenseless receiver, like the one that got overturned against West Virginia. That guy took a hit to the head. He should have thrown the flag for unnecessary roughness, and then they could have reviewed the targeting. But that should have been a penalty the guy was going to the ground and he hit him in the above with his elbow in his neck.
And Larry, wasn't he wrapped? Is that what you're talking about? If I remember it right, wasn't the guy wrapped up by one player? He got hit in the back of the head by the other guy. So
by his forearm.
That used to be a defenseless receiver. I could have sworn that used to be almost a definition. If one guy's arms are wrapped up, the other guy comes in, regardless if it's leading with the crown or launching or whatever. But that used to be a rule where you couldn't do that, and the fact there was no flag at all, that was very questionable.
They still have a defenseless receiver penalty, but they don't call it. They'll actually, if it's close to a targeting, they call that. When we already know they'll stop and review any targeting. They don't need to call it on the field. But that hit that West Virginia receiver took, that should have been unnecessary roughness.
Well, it's kind of weird. I just thought of this. That guy took a bunch of shots in that game. It was, I think it was the 0, right? The hyphenated name guy. He's the guy that had the ball sail right through his hands later in the game. So who knows? Who knows how that affected him on that play? Maybe he has bell rung. You never know.
Yeah. Well, JT Daniels rung it with the ball on that throw. It went right through his hands.
Yeah.
Well, myself
and the older guys in here will remember this. we'll remember the Mel Blount, Ronnie Lott, Steve Atwater, go Chuck Cecil, come across the middle and run into this guy,
Dick
hitting
Lane?
that used to go on. But there used to be the spearing call. Leading with the crown of the helmet was called spearing, and that was illegal. And even back in the NFL, when you could clothesline a guy or grab him, horse collar him by the back of the shoulder pads, even then you rarely saw spearing called. Now it's like almost anytime two helmets go bunk, here comes a flag.
Well, like I've said all along, is I understand what the targeting rule is for, but the way that it's been implemented is retarded. I mean, they have not. I mean, there's no consistency with it at all.
Nope. 100% agree with that. There is not consistency with that. It's not.
Mark, how can we fix that?
And then that's a great question. Like, are we gonna see here in the future every play getting reviewed up?
Are you going to let Derrick Henry at 245 pounds and 4.5 speed come blowing through the line with his head down and smash into your free safety with his head like a battering ram? And that's okay?
We never see that called on the offensive side. No, I don't. Is that ever been called?
Well, it's called a face mask on defense, but it's called a stiff arm on offense. There's a lot of rules that don't go parallel on both sides of the ball. So
I think you grab your top officials, whoever they are, and you grab defensive coaches that really understand defense and know how difficult it is to play, because we're asking these defenders to make split-second decisions while they're running as fast as they can, and that's ridiculous.
Exactly.
And you get them together during an off season, and you go through every targeting call from the previous season, and you work out a criteria of how difficult is this to figure out, and what truly is targeting. Last night there was a play where there's an incomplete pass, but it was so close to being a lateral that the receiver is like trying to pick the ball up because he doesn't know whether it's going to be ruled an incomplete pass or a lateral. Meanwhile, there's a defensive back at him trying to like grab the ball. He doesn't know, and he targets him, and he gets thrown out of the game.
Well, Mark, I got a prime example of this.
And it's like, well, if you haven't blown the whistle and the ball's trying to be picked up by a wide receiver because he doesn't know if it's a lateral, and you got this other guy that's just going for the ball, and he happens to. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, and you gotta remember, these are kids, man. These are grown men. They're young kids. They're young men. They, and they're in this emotional game. Like, I don't like to. Okay, maybe throw them out of the game, but like for the next game or whatever, like all that crap, I don't like that. Especially like there should probably be like a level of targeting. Like, okay. This was an in-the-moment, split-second decision. Bam, it happened. But we're not going to kick him out he's not disbanded from the next game.
Well, I got a prime example of this.
Well, that's something like Mark said they could figure out. Yeah. When they get a group together, just like you said, but that's too reasonable. What Steve call Mark? Steve calls Mark the reasonable bucknut.
I got a different word for Buckeye, but I won't use that on the channel.
It's like the roughing the passer. If the guy takes an extra step and lights him up,
yeah,
I get that. But
if you're thrusting, you put your head down.
You're asking a 330-pound guy who's trying to get around a 315-pound guy, and he's coming full speed. You're asking a large appliance to stop on a dime.
Don't get me started on roughing the passer.
The ones that are really sucking is when somebody goes to bat the ball as the quarterback's throwing it and he barely brushes his helmet, and that's 15 yards. That one is the hardest roughing the passer. Like, that one just irritates me. Even if it's against my team or for my team, it's just like, that's just bull crap.
I remember when Jack Youngblood on the Rams took Minnesota quarterback Tommy Kramer and threw him about 20 yards and broke his leg. I mean,
that was a while ago. That was a long time ago. Holy shit.
Well, I got a prime example of this.
Long field goal for Illinois. They now lead 2016 with 2:16 to play.
Ooh, I don't know. Indiana's got some offense, man. Watch out.
I trust Brett Bielema might have shut him down, honestly, if I had to put money on it.
Yeah, this is a good game. I mean, what are they? I mean, they're probably end up battling for who takes 11th and 12th in the the Big Ten, but still, it's a good game.
Okay.
Right. I mean, these are the bottom feeders. Yeah.
I just want to see some good games, man. I don't care if they're
I'll tell you what. Bielema has clearly found out that Garcia's is some great pizza, because he looks like he's put on about 50 large pizzas since he moved to Champaign. He's getting into Mark Mangino territory.
Man, he never should have left Wisconsin. He never should have left. What was he thinking? Let's go to the worst SEC team and try and play it.
Bielema had the funniest press conference ever.
Well, he's a goofy guy, but I love him.
Well, you know,
if I remember correctly, he hadn't really done anything to offend anyone in Wisconsin, right? I mean, they weren't like cracking the door open. He just left. Isn't that right?
Money.
Yeah.
He was making like $3.5 million at Wisconsin, and he made like $5.5 million at Arkansas. They offered him a lot more money.
It was a big money difference, but yeah, I get it. Yeah.
There's no animosity, though. I mean, there was no bad blood between him and the administration in Madison.
Not that I know of.
Not until he left.
Yeah, I mean, when he left, I was
Not
shocked.
until he was holding up a Big Ten championship trophy, knowing that I'm leaving for Arkansas tomorrow.
That was crazy to me. When that happened, I was like, shocked the hell out of me. But, you know, these coaches chase the money, and we got, with the way college football is nowadays, good Lord, man, we got coaches switching every couple of years. New coaches Lovie Smith got no chance. He was given no chance. Like,
How about that?
you got to give a coach 3-4 years at least if you're trying to build a new program. But
He got
I don't know.
2 years.
How many?
Lovie Smith.
Yeah.
Time.
Where's Pruitt at now?
Jeff Pruitt?
No. Jeremy Pruitt. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Is he even coaching? Probably not.
Virginia Tech lost Old Dominion. I didn't even notice.
Yeah, that was a crazy game.
Lovie Smith got 5 seasons. That's
Jeremy Pruitt's currently out of the job.
Well, I guess he had enough time. I didn't think he had that many seasons. I guess myself wasn't really paying attention a whole lot. I thought he was going to bring the program around, but if he had 5 seasons and he didn't do it, then yeah, I guess that's a good move. They got a good coach now, so here we go. Indiana moving the ball.
Yeah.
Indiana's always got that fire offense, man. I hate playing them. It's like the last 10 years, it seems Michigan, Indiana, we have been in so many overtime games. It is insane.
This might be crazy to say, but I think that
As a boy growing up in Springfield, Illinois, I absolutely hated Robert Montgomery Knight and the Indiana basketball team. So that's my feelings towards Indiana. Even though my brother's got his master's in international business from IU, they always say, "Well, one's IU. Well, is Illinois IU? No, Illinois is U of I. Indiana's IU."
Yeah, but you always gotta. I mean, when you play Indiana, man, you gotta be careful. Them guys, they show up, man. They show up every weekend.
They're showing up right now. Damn it.
Yep.
What wasn't they ranked like in the top?
Oh my God!
A few years ago.
They got players, and they just get bad calls. I don't know what it is. They always seem to have a good team.
Wasn't Indiana ranked in like top 15 a few years ago?
Yeah, 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was 2019, 2020? I think.
2020.
2020. Yeah, Mark knows more. Oh, how's that a flag? What did you do?
Say Illinois wasn't set on defense, but it's the officials' fault. because they've got to allow Illinois to sub. Indiana subs, so Illinois's got to be allowed time to sub. They didn't allow Illinois subs to come in and get set. How's that on Illinois? That's the officials once again. This game has been atrociously against Illinois. The flags have been.
Like what you said, Mark, with that, you bring these defensive coordinators or these defensive coaches in on this. Are we going to get to that someday? I think we will, obviously, with technology, the way it's going. We're going to have officials on the field. I mean, we're going to have them on the field, but for big calls like this, game-changing calls, it's going to go to the booth. Like, I think it's got to, right?
Well, you have to have officials on the field to mark the ball, to
maintain
order and start the clock and motion, all those sorts of things, and call penalties.
But like game-changing big calls, like you were saying, get these defense like.
Well, no, I was talking about in the off season having a conference between with top officials, with defensive coaches to really work through and watch all these targeting calls throughout this season, and just like have a week-long conference to watch this, to talk about how they could make this better. And the penalty is ridiculous. It's the only penalty in sports that it depends on when you committed it during the game as to how much you're going to be penalized.
Well, Mark, I got a great example of this. What you're talking about. Do you remember a few years ago when I believe it was the SEC championship or it was the national championship game? I can't remember which one game it was, but Tony Brown for Alabama got kicked out of the game because he was going in for a tackle, and not him, the defender's head moved, and he grazed his helmet on the top of it and got ejected from the game from that.
Yeah.
And Nick Saban about had a conniption fit on the sidelines because now he had to sit out the rest of the game.
Yeah. I'm with Mark on that, man. You got to get these split second things. Like, I know what a split second decision can do. I've been in combat. Like, it's you can't change it, obviously, but hey, you make a mistake. Why? Unless it's blatant and clear and obvious, I don't like getting players kicked out of a game for something like that.
Well, there's a difference between trying to protect the players and then actually letting them play football.
Exactly. Like, if it's a split second. Oh, did he pick that? Sorry.
I mean, that's the thing, is the targeting rule, like we've said, is just so inconsistent. And
it is. Definitely.
And like in a situation where the defender's head moves, like in that situation I was talking about, like all that happened was the offensive player moved his head, just by momentum, and his head grazed the helmet, and he got ejected from it. But then later on in the game, there was a more blatant call, and the flag just sat inside the referee's, waist.
Yeah, I agree.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
I think after this next week and the week following, we're going to get to have another discussion about your placement of Michigan's quarterback at like 37, being okay with that placement, what we talked about.
After they throw for a ton of yardage against Hawaii and Colorado State and UConn, we're going to have that discussion.
Sure. I mean, you can compare them. You can compare them against.
I don't care if the ball doesn't hit the ground for 3 weeks. We're not having that conversation.
All right. I'll wait. But I mean, I just watched, Peyton Thornton. He was like, not too bad. But I think we can compare it to that. It's not like Western Michigan's the defensive challenger of the century either.
Oh, there we go, Indiana.
Who is Michigan's first big test?
What do we got?
Ohio State.
Well, obviously, but no, we got Iowa,
Iowa's the one to
Iowa,
watch
Penn
out for.
State, Michigan State. We don't have Wisconsin this year, so that's a plus for us, I guess, on our side.
Iowa's the one y'all got to watch out for.
Yeah,
That team
I
is
think that's going to be the
sneaky,
first
sneaky.
game. I think Iowa game's going to be the first game you're really going to have to.
More than likely, yeah. I mean, Iowa always plays this good. It's always a good game, it seems like. I mean, Kirk Ferentz has always got his team ready. I honestly see something different, I think, and it'll play out. I mean, I'm not going to rub it in now, but this Michigan defense is going to be pretty damn good. And I think a lot of people are sleeping on that, but
I don't see anything to base that on yet. We got a new defensive coordinator. I mean, sure, he's from the same system, but it's just yet to be seen. I mean,
hey,
I kind of have that gut feeling too, but I mean, I just gut feelings aren't gonna get me anywhere.
No, it's not just the gut feeling. It's the way the players are acting, the practices, the way they were media days. These guys got a chip on their shoulder, man, because everybody's looking at them like, oh, no Aiden Hutchinson, no Ajabo, you guys are gonna suck.
See, I actually think that Michigan's going to be better this year than they were last year.
Indiana touchdown.
Yep. Are they going for 2?
No.
Yeah, I knew it. I knew Indiana was going to come back. They always do, man. You can never sleep on Indiana. It's never over until that hit 0. These guys.
I just want to puke.
What?
Did you guys see the Michigan State go for the touchdown when they could have made it a 2-score game by kicking the field goal?
Yeah.
Yes.
What'd you guys think about that call? I mean, it ends up being the right call.
It was 4th and inches, wasn't it?
A yard.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're also putting yourself up by 2 at the end of the game.
Yeah, but they're at like the 3-yard line.
Yeah, if you can't make that yards, what Bo Schembechler always said.
If you can't make it against Western Michigan.
Exactly.
Even if you don't get it, you're up 8. So they got to score a touchdown and get the 2-pointer, and they got to drive 97 yards.
Yep. So you're putting them in. I mean, it was a great call. Bro Schembechler always said, if you can't make a yard or 2, then you don't deserve to win the game. I mean, if it comes down to it.
Hey, Mark, I appreciate you having me on tonight. I got to get off. I got to get up early in the morning. But,
Yeah, we are going to shut this down as soon as this game's over. We'll see what Illinois can do with 23 seconds.
Okay,
Get some magic here, some Hail Mary going on. I don't know.
I'll be curious to see the post-game comment, because there really were a couple of pretty debatable calls, one of which literally took a touchdown away from the Illini. I really think most of the times I don't buy the argument that the officiating changes the game, because you got to overcome that. There's going to be bad calls, but there were a couple tonight that this just kind of stood out a little bit.
The line was -3 for Indiana too.
Was it really?
But then again, Illinois had a chance. Illinois was it was 20-16, and they could have kicked the field goal to go ahead, 23-16. Inside the 5, they ran it twice and didn't make it. They got turned back.
So it'd be 23. It'd be 23-23 right now. Then.
Yes. Yeah.
Here we go.
So they'll be questioning Bielema. Why didn't you kick? Why did you go for it with 5 minutes left? You could have gone up a touchdown. He wanted that touchdown, and he didn't get it.
Mark, why didn't you include this game on your betting picks?
Yeah, this would have been a good one. I would have put this one up, especially with the -3 on Indiana. I would have picked Indiana all day long.
Look at the Indiana students are all coming down to the rail. Don't tell me they're going to come onto the field. You don't come onto the after not winning a Big Ten game last year, and then you're going to beat Illinois. You're going to come onto the field because you beat Illinois.
Hey man, these kids just got all their college paid for. They're happy.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I hadn't thought about that.
Here we go. Oh, we're gonna get a drive.
Wow, that was a great pass. That was a good.
Didn't Ohio State storm the field after tying Michigan when Herb Street was there?
After what?
Like, is that true? Did that happen or did that not?
Yeah, don't bring that up, Will.
Hey,
Okay.
Wait, Will, what was that? I missed what you said there.
you don't want to hear it.
That was verification.
That was
Mark,
a long time ago. That was some.
I went into the rabbit hole one afternoon,
Oh,
and
Mark,
You know,
how
it-
quickly you become less unbiased. The other day you were saying you're neutral. How your neutrality changes.
How was that just not pass interference? Did y'all see that?
I just said we won't talk about it.
he had his head turned, man. He had his head.
I mean,
That's a good no call. He had his head turned.
I wanted to see him because I'm like, I watch this guy like every weekend. I wanted to see him actually
That
play.
might do it.
that Colorado TCU game had a weather delay to the start. They're going to be real late finishing.
Are they playing?
Yes, they are
Oh,
playing.
shit, that's over. It didn't even. Was that face mask? They got no timeout. Oh, they got two. Look
I
like
would
he
be
got face
losing
mask.
my mind right
Thought
now.
you couldn't hit
Probably.
the quarterback in the head.
Yeah, it looked like he grabbed his face mask. Let's see the replay.
Nope, that was clean. That was clean.
Well, I'm still waiting.
If I was Bielema, I'd be like,
Oh yeah,
Bill Brown was last night, chasing down the referees right now.
he got
Well,
around that tackle.
Bielema cost this game.
He
I
got
mean,
around
Illinois is
that
going to be
tackle.
1-1. They should be 2-2.
That's
I
nice.
feel bad for Illinois. I really do.
But look at it this way, guys. No matter what you're doing tomorrow, you're going to see a better football game than I am. I'm going to be on the sidelines shooting Iowa State against Southeast Missouri State.
What are you on a camera? You a camera guy?
Who's projected
Yeah.
to win that game?
Yeah, I shoot for a couple of Iowa State websites, and then the next week I've got Iowa State. That'll be good. That'll be a good game. But this first week is the real clunker.
Wait, is this a replay of the last catch that was not called, or was that just catch? Was that not called a catch?
That must have been earlier in the game.
Are
Yeah.
you
That was
kidding
the
me?
touchdown. That was the touchdown they denied him.
That was definitely a catch.
Nobody knows what a catch is anymore.
That was a catch. He was
A
down on the
12-year-old
ground.
Pee Wee player knows. That's what we got to get him.
He was on the ground. That was a catch.
That's it.
Damn, that's messed up.
All right. Hail Mary time.
2 seconds.
Can they pull out a Tua?
No, they around our parts they call that an App State.
Hey.
Nice.
App State was a 3-time national champion division. What, 3?
Hey, I'm just bringing it up before one of these wise guys do.
Dude, I'll tell you what, man. When
No,
that-
Dustin, just
before that
stop.
game-
No, you can't. Dustin, don't. It doesn't work. Just stop. Just don't even
Hey,
try.
Before that game, I
you
did
can't
my
defend
homework,
that.
man. I was really, really worried about App State before that game.
Well,
When people
Like-
bring up Stanford, I just go, yep, and let it go as fast as possible. Don't argue it because it hangs around longer. Just let it go.
I ain't gonna argue it. I was worried about that game before it even started. Like, I was legit worried. Not,
Yeah,
I don't think many people in the country were, but I did my homework. I watched some of their games. I saw their championships. They had this brand new spread offense that nobody was really running, not that well anyway.
All right, Tim, I'm gonna get out. I'm gonna go represent the Pac-12 in SEC country tomorrow. So wish me well.
Yeah, I'll see y'all
Oh,
tomorrow,
shit.
hopefully. I'm trying
Bye.
to get on
Thanks,
the
Larry.
Discord thing. I'll get that Patreon too.
Appreciate it.
Well, that's the
Dustin,
game.
Indiana's done something they didn't do all of last year. They won a Big Ten game. There you
They're
go.
on the board.
On the board. Tim, thanks. Will, Hunter.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. You guys have a good night.
Up,
Thank y'all.
buddy. Thanks so much. Everybody watching, we'll be back all day throughout the day with all sorts of post-game shows on the various team channels, and I'll be here all day producing content and doing instant analysis. And of course, at the end of the day, big call-in show on a Saturday night. So we'll see you then.
Thanks, Mark, for having me in.
Thanks,
Wishing
J-Dub.
everybody good health and happiness as always.